push the button. I've never had to. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Arts, Parks, Health, Aging, and Los Angeles River Committee. We are now beginning this meeting, if there are no public comment cards at this time on items 1 and 2, colleagues, I would like to move them on consent if there are no objections.
I just want to thank the representatives of the county here. I'm the representative of the county. I want to thank the county because the Hollywood Bowl is one of the greatest places on earth. Thank you. If you agree with me, you could clap.
And seeing that there are no objections, we will move items 1 and 2 on consent. We will now move to item 3, a motion relative to the reopening of the Hollyhock House in Hollywood. Ms. Espinoza, would you please read item 3?
Item 3, as you stated, is a motion relative to the reopening of the Hollyhock House in Barnstable Park, and also waiving the admission fees and to recognize the reopening, and modifying the regular closing hours of the park to remain open for the house opening event on the 13th and 14th of February.
And Ms. Espinoza, is there an amendment? Yes.
There is an amendment to the item, the 5th paragraph down, that begins with, "I further move that the Board of Recreation and Park Commissioners," that paragraph should be amended to read, "I further move that the Department of Recreation and Parks consider the event organizer's request to hold the event and to modify the regular closing hours of Barnstable Park, Los Angeles Municipal Code Section 6344, B14A, to allow the park to remain open from 10:30 p.m. to 5 o'clock a.m. for the Hollyhock House opening event, a special event to be held on the evening of February 13th, 2015, and the morning of February 14th, 2015.
Thank you. And to everyone listening, the purpose is so that we can have a 24-hour open house on the reopening of the Hollyhock House, which begins on the 13th of February, and I hope all of you can make it because you certainly will be able to within a 24-hour period. And having said that, we do have one comment card from Mr. Jay Handel, and he's waving. Oh, you, okay. You have item 4, it says 3 here, so we'll hold off then.
Yeah, Cultural Affairs here on this item. Yeah, go to the center table. Matthew, give us a report.
Good afternoon, Councilman. Matthew Rudnick, Assistant GM, Department of Cultural Affairs.
Matthew, you want to explain some of the work that's gone into this very important date and what we can expect to see on the 13th?
Sure. I just want to thank your office and the committee. The Hollyhock House obviously is a treasure here in the city of LA. It's been under renovation for a good over 6 years, and we are now ready to reopen. We thank you, Councilmember O'Farrell, for your leadership, especially your office and your staff have been tremendous in working with us and kind of pulling us together with Rec and Parks and the others that are making this happen. There will be the opening on the 13th, a 24-hour opening. This motion essentially waives our tour fees. We will have a whole new kind of docent-led and self-guided tour available, and we're excited to reopen the house and get the public back up on Barnstall.
Thank you. Mr. LeBunge, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I just want to know what kind of traffic circulation you're going to have up there as far as dash bus or any vans or any ADA?
We'll likely work with Kaiser to allow for additional overflow parking in their lot next door. I don't know if we've scheduled any buses, but certainly we'll look into that to make room for the added car traffic.
Well, I want to ask, Mr. O'Farrell, you've done an excellent job in really exceeding what has been going on there.
Thank you, sir.
I'm right across the street from it, the Greater Griffith Park Senior Center, which works with Elysian Valley, Echo Park, Atwater Village, some Glassell, Silver Lake, East Hollywood. I'd like to get some transit that day. I need more information. And if you could meet with my Deputy Chief of Staff, Stacy Marble, give a breakdown because they're over on Riverside and Los Feliz, and then it's 24 hours. What day of the week is it?
It's a Friday.
Friday.
Begins
So
Friday.
there's a lot of parking over at Friendship Auditorium. And at Friendship Auditorium on Riverside Drive, we could have a shuttle from there so they could do that. And I'm just thinking if there's anything else in the area that we could capture for you to take advantage of the excellent job that all the Cultural Affairs has done, but Mitch, especially you, because now it's a place to be. And art is where it matters.
Thank you,
So,
sir.
thank you.
And while we have this conversation going, I pay close attention to social media, as some of you might realize, and there has been a misconception, a misperception that has been promoted out there that it's not ADA compliant. I want to say for the record, we actually delayed the reopening because I wasn't satisfied enough that it was ADA compliant enough. So the Hollyhock House is open to all, and it's going to be more accessible than ever before. And I want to state that for the record. Thank you. Thank you, Matthew. So then, if there are no objections, then we are approving this item without objections. And it sounds like we don't have any. Thank you. This item is approved. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to officially welcome all of my colleagues, Curran Price, Tom Labange, Joe Buscaino, and I know that Gil Cedillo is on his way for this meeting. And now we would like to go to item 4. I mentioned Curran. I did. So we'd like to now go to item 4. Ms. Espinosa, please read the item.
For item 4, the Board of Recreation and Park Commissioners has submitted a report relative to the selection of Live Nation Entertainment Incorporated as the highest ranked proposer to the request for proposal for concessions and operations of the Greek Theater.
Thank you. And Mr. City Attorney APDS, would you please clarify exactly what is before the committee and the actions that we are required to make today? If you could please state that for the record.
Certainly, members of the committee, the item before you today is an advisory pre-contractual request from your committee to approve the Rec and Parks selection of Live Nation as the bidder to ultimately receive an award or contract from the Department of Recreation and Parks. As such, the matter before you today, after you've had sufficient information, is to decide if you concur with that decision or if you reject that decision. And those would be your options today, limited to that one specific request from Recreation and Parks.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Diaz. Colleagues, we're going to go into presentations now. I'm going to invite Mike Scholl from Recreation and Parks to come up and present. And
Mr. Chair?
what I'd like, yes, go ahead.
Okay, one more clarification.
Sure.
For the record, the City Attorney's Office has advised us that the designation of for, against, neutral positions of the community impact statements submitted by several neighborhood councils do not match the true intentions of the respected neighborhood councils. This is primarily because the discrepancy was due to the neighborhood councils themselves incorrectly labeling their positions as on a standard form provided by the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. If any of the neighborhood councils think that this is accurate and they need to modify their statements, they need to contact the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment and resubmit their statements before this item moves forward to council.
And have these corrections been made and transmitted to your satisfaction?
Not at this point.
However, Mr. Chair, if I may speak, Anthony Paul Diaz, City Attorney's Office, I do believe earlier the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment was also going through to verify the accuracy of those statements and how they were transmitted, and will be providing clarifications to be made part of the council file.
All right, terrific. Later on, when we get to the question and answer portion, when I open it up to my colleagues, then if that comes up, then we can certainly invite Gracie Liu up to the table. At this point, what we're going to do is have the presentation from Recreation and Parks on what is before us. And colleagues, Mr. Labange included, I'd like to hold all comments and questions till after the presentations are complete. With that said, Mr. Scholl, please.
Good afternoon, council members and the public. Sitting to my left is joining me at the table is Vicky Israel, and to my right, Agnes Coe. Vicky Israel oversees the Greek Theater as part of her operational duties. Ms. Coe was our project manager during the RFP process and managed the process to where we are today. So we have a presentation to you today, and before I begin, I just want to state that we believe that what we've prepared and where we've gone to get to this point has been has been fair and transparent, in as much as I think we could have possibly made it. And I directly take the responsibility of where we're at today, because I was, just as I was newly appointed to the general manager's position, this was probably our single biggest issue facing the department. So I took it and managed it with Vicky and Agnes all the way. So this is completely under the department's control, and I just wanted to make that clear that it is solely our recommendation as we stand here today. Do we need to point this out? Sorry, we're having a technical difficulty here. Please deal with it. Which one do you
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
our computers are not on, so if we have to see their boards, I think we should go to the council seats.
Did
and
you,
get these.
the clerk should have handed out copies of the presentation
Yes.
to. Okay. So we're on, as I click council member, okay. I'll also, okay. Okay, beginning on the first, it's actually on the second page, the outlined key objectives for the RFP were very simple and straightforward. Our first was financial performance, with, of course, mitigated risk, and there were subcategories to each of the key objectives. So as a amount to the financial performance, it was a revenue sharing minimum, the level of capital investment, and strategic direction. Those three made up that main objective. There was asset management and concession improvement plan, with subcategories being first-class, high-quality venue and patron experience, vision for addressing trends in fans experience in food and beverage approach. Third major category was event activity plan, where we talked about the diversity and the types and numbers of shows that would be taking place in the Greek. And the last being community partnership, where we had subcategories on communications plan and outreach to the community, as well as neighborhood feedback. The RFP in itself was designed to, we're trying to look forward on the Greek, on what, what it could be. And so we tried to stimulate creativity in it. There was, we didn't list exactly everything we wanted. We wanted to leave some of that up to the proposers to see how they might differentiate themselves from each other as they prepared their own vision for the Greek theater. But they had to be underneath those four objectives. I know this is difficult to read. I'm going to, really the intent of this slide is just to show kind of the steps involved to get to where we're at today. And I'm going to just talk about it in context of rows and not necessarily by boxes. But the first row represents a number of things that took place in the first year of the process, beginning in December of 2012, where much of the industry research was done and where we began to structure the actual RFP process. The next two rows represent approximately 5 months, where that consisted of board presentations, our commission task force presentations, community meeting, a community survey, and presentations to the Greek Theater Advisory Committee. So that was over those, would be the number of things that happened over the next two rows. And then the final two rows represent the last 7 months, which brings us today. But over the last 7 months has been made up of advertising and accepting the responses to the RFP, the independent panel review, as well as 3 commission hearings. There was, and I want to draw attention to the last row where we accepted we accepted the proposals from two, and we received 2 in total on August 12th, 2014. So we received one from Live Nation, and we received a proposal from Nederlander AEG. So that is when they officially were brought to the department on August 12, 2014. The first meeting where the board was considering the matter occurred on October 1st, 2014, and subsequently there was 2 additional board meetings, the second being on October 9th, and then the last one where they approved the recommendation on October 23rd. Over those, just some interesting facts about those 3 meetings for the council's consideration or understanding is that over those 3 meetings, there was 10.5 hours spent at the commission for hearings around just the Greek theater item. That's not all the other items. It's 10.5 hours that was dedicated by our commission over those 3 meetings. And we had 325 total speaker cards over that time, actual speakers. We had more speaker cards, but there was only 325 that actually spoke over that time. That's only to say that there was an extensive amount of time spent with the general public at those at our commission meetings before they actually made a rendered recommendation or decision. As part of the RFP process, we said from day one and on the process that we would do this and have them reviewed by a independent evaluation panel, trying to, again, with the goal of making it the fairest and most transparent way we could do it. So we went out and sought 5 industry experts in a number of categories that related to finance, similar venue operations, music and entertainment industry operations, public sector administration, parks and recreation department oversight, capital improvements and maintenance, and historic architecture. We tried to get 5 members on the panel that had some experience in at least 1 or 2 of those areas. So that when they did meet, it wasn't. It was a well-rounded approach. Again, all trying to touch on the 4 key objectives that we had in the RFP. Talk a minute about the RFP scoring. The RFP process was broken up into the following categories, and I've noted their percentage. The first, again, this has to do with the key objectives, the 4 key objectives. Financial performance, 30%. Within that objective, the percentages that were weighted as follows: strategic plan and direction, 10%; revenue share, 10%; capital investment, 10%. Asset management and concession improvement plan, again, was weighted a total of 30%, but the subcategories in there were weighted 6% for concession improvement, for the required concession improvements, 12% for potential concession improvements, and 12% for preventative maintenance plan. Event activity plan was rated 30% as well, and it was broken up into 4 subcategories, the operational plan being weighted 12%, food and beverage plan 7%, event plan 6%, and sustainability plan 5%. The last category was community partnership plan, and that was weighted, total weight was 10% of the score. And that was broken down into communications plan and reporting feedback plan, both at 5%. Those percentages are of great importance to our discussion, because as we begin to look at some of the other items in the proposals, that was outlined in our RFP process from the very beginning. It's not something that we can change. It was something that we put in the process so everybody knew that that's the scoring weight that we're going to be used. So in other words, if you're submitting a proposal, you'd be very interested to know what the weighting categories were. So this slide represents the summary of cumulative scores that was performed by the independent panel review. So again, we received the proposals on August 12th, and during that period up until October 1st, when we presented to our board, there was meetings that we held with the independent panel review. I'm not going to go through each of the scores, but I will highlight the overall, and as you look through them, the independent panel found the following, and it's just, when you look at each of the main categories, the 4 main categories, Live Nation outscored Nederlander AEG on all but one of those major categories, which was the community partnership plan, which they did not outscore them on. And they outscored them on out Nederlander AEG on all the subcategories, all but 3. They were scored, Nederlander AEG was scored higher on revenue share, food and beverage, and the event activity communications plan. So overall, there was the scoring total weight was Live Nation 455 of the total 500 points versus 396 of the total points for Nederlander AEG. So getting into the response of the RFP, this is the financial numbers that were guaranteed. So there was a minimum guarantees in the RFP that was required. The total cash and investment over the 20-year life of the potential contract, Live Nation had guaranteed $106 million versus Nederlander AEG of $96.246 million. And I'll break that down as we get further into the presentation. The revenue share annually, Live Nation guaranteed $3 million per year for the 20 years, with no escalators or increments along the way, versus Nederlander AEG guaranteed $3.5 million, plus an escalator of $250,000 every 5 years. Over the 20-year life of looking at revenue share alone, Live Nation guaranteed $60 million versus Nederlander AEG $77.5 million. So clearly, Nederlander AEG was guaranteed a higher minimum revenue share than Live Nation. The capital investment over that same 20 years, Live Nation guaranteed $40 million versus Nederlander AEG of $18.746 million. So you can begin to see where we get to the 106 versus the 96. For us, we're looking at both categories. We weighted them equally important in the RFP process. One was not greater than the other, and they were scored appropriately. And if we went back to the scoring sheet, you'd see that Nederlander AEG actually scored higher on the revenue share than Live Nation did, and you'd see that Live Nation scored higher on the capital investment. But overall, when you put those two together, the Live Nation scored higher because of the total investment of $106 million versus the $96.246. And then there was a community trust, which was added under the community partnership part of the plan. Live Nation proposed setting, on top of that, setting $300,000 annually to go towards community events, towards youth at risk programs, things like that. One of the things that we wrote into there is there was a big interest in the department for a wider audience to this RFP, and we've been trying to steer the direction into this direction on all of our RFPs. So we have these great, fabulous facilities, and we need them to belong to the entire city, and we need to find ways to get youth and others who may not have the opportunity to attend these facilities a means of getting there. So as a result of this was their way of financially putting that forward, is saying that they would put $300,000 towards that type of initiative. Okay, this is, again, as part of the RFP response, we did require a pro forma analysis by each of the proposers. And again, just to be clear, this is money that's not guaranteed. This is pro forma numbers. So beginning with the number of events, Live Nation based their pro forma on 70 events. And they guaranteed, and it's on the number, because we also had a request in the RFP, it was mandatory that they state how many events that they would guarantee us. And if they did not meet those events, there's a substantial penalty if they don't meet that minimum. So Live Nation guaranteed 70 events. Nederlander AEG based a pro forma on 75 events, but only guaranteed 50. And I would say that, based on the analysis that was done by staff and our independent panel, that was there was some notice taken to that about the pro forma being based on 75 versus 50. One could say that there's risk involved with them actually meeting their pro forma if they're only guaranteeing 50. They didn't guarantee the 75. So that was just something that we took into account when we were reviewing it. The projected gross revenue over the 20 years, Live Nation's pro forma numbers came up to $972.2 million versus Nederlander AEG, which is $977.7. So that's Nederlander AEG pro forma they're expecting to make $20 million additional dollars based on their pro forma projections. And that's important because if you look at the projected revenue shares, although we had a minimum guarantee in the RFP, there was also a percentage of gross. So it was, we would get the greater of the two. So we were always guaranteed the minimum, but if their pro formas were high, then we would get a percentage of that gross, and we would always get the greater of the two numbers. Live Nation's, if you took that based on the pro forma numbers, Live Nation put in their RFP response 8% of the total gross would come to the department, which would be which would amount to, over those 20 years, $77.8 million. Nederlander AEG's was 97.8, so that's 20 million more dollars because their percentage of gross was based on 10%. So they did guarantee a higher percentage of gross on the revenue share as well as on the minimum guarantee. But again, that was only one section of the RFP, and they did outscore Live Nation on that part of the proposal. But if you look at again, we're looking at the total RFP response. So even if you take and you say, okay, then even if you assume that they're going to meet their pro forma numbers, once you add in the capital investment, there virtually is no difference between the two proposals on the financial. Because once you add the $40 million to Live Nation's 77.8, and you add the roughly $18.5 million to Nederlander AEG's 97.8, it's virtually, a couple $1 million apart. Okay, as part of the capital improvements, the RFP terms were as follows. We had mandatory capital improvements, and then we had potential items that we wanted them to explore in the RFP, and I'll quickly just run through them. The major ones on the mandatory were, if you're familiar with the Greek, and I'll show you in a coming slide, there's north and south terraces. Those are the elevated seats. We recognize them being in very poor condition and made it mandatory for those to be repaired or replaced. We didn't say one way or the other. They had the option. And also to replace the roof and historical portions of the stage structure, and replace or refurbish or replace the theater seating. Those were the main mandatory capital improvements. And we mentioned other potential items that were not mandatory, but they were given the option of making their proposal stand out. Things like the concessions, camera system, sound and lighting, and other areas within the Greek theater, as you can see there. We designed the RFP to encourage, innovation, to look forward, beyond what the Greek is currently today. I think this thing needs new batteries. There we go. This was the RFP response for the Live Nation on capital investment. They guaranteed $25 million capital investment into the facility in the first 2 years. And then they guaranteed after year 10 another $15 million infusion of capital into the facility. Again, that was one of the things that stood out to the committee as well as the staff. Their approach to the mandatory improvements were they would replace the terrace seating rather than repair them. They would replace rather than repair the roof and stage, and they would replace the seats. So they weren't looking for a refurbishment. They were looking to replace those items. Some of the big things on the capital, and I'm really going to focus on one big one, which was the theater roof. And when we get to in a couple slides, you'll see what I'm speaking of. But a big one that both of the proposers put in their proposal is to raise the roof, literally, on the Greek theater. The current roof structure is not historic to the facility. The original Greek theater did not have a roof over the stage. The existing roof is not in good shape. It does not perform very well, and it actually limits the number of acts and the types of acts that you can bring to the Greek theater. So we've mainly because of the height limitation that prevents some of the larger shows, productions from coming into the Greek. Nederlander AEG's capital investment, again, was they guaranteed $18.7 million in the first 2 years with no commitment of capital funds after 10 years. Oops, sorry, I didn't. Got that. It won't go. Try it. There you go. Oh. I don't know. Vicky has the magic touch. So again, they guaranteed $18.7 million over the 20-year life. Their approach to the mandatory capital improvements was to repair the terrace seating rather than replace it, and repair the roof and stage, although they also were raising the roof as well, and I'll show you their renderings in a moment, and they were replacing the seats throughout the facility. Again, the large ticket item in this was the increasing the stage house dimensions, which both of the proposers selected to do, both recognizing that their pro forma numbers will probably be based on the fact that they're going to need to do that. Okay, go ahead. So this is just a quick picture of the historic Greek, so I wanted you to be able to see, at least have some idea what it looked like. With some of the historical characteristics of the building and facades, and then the fact that it did not have a roof. Next. This is the current Greek theater, where just to give you an idea of what it is today, again, a lot of the historic facades and characteristics of the building have been covered up for over the many years of, that happens a lot, and what we find in architecture is that for whatever reason over the years they get covered up. So you can see that most of that has been is covered up, and it has a roof, which again is not historical. Next. This was Nederlander AEG's proposal, again seeing the raising the roof structure well above the old structure. Again, these are concepts and renderings. For those of us who work in this world of engineering and architecture, this is like the very basic stage of a proposal. By no means represents the actual engineering and architecture that needs to go in, but they give you an idea of what they're trying to achieve and what it might look like. So these renderings represent that. So you'd see a similar type structure, roof structure, that exists today, but much elevated above the floor of the stage. Next. Live Nation took a completely different approach in the aesthetic look of the facility, where you can see that it's much more, it's different looking. It's the roof structure is elevated. It's actually a separated structure from the existing historic structure. And even though I haven't heard anybody that would say this, but I've always, in my 25 years of historical restoration, it was always the goal to make, if you were going to do an addition to an historical structure, that it would be, you would not want to make it look and feel like it was part of the existing historic structure. And I think that they, whether it's this or something similar to this, I think that's what they were trying to achieve. It was very distinct and different from the existing structure, and you could see the historical facades on it. But again, same concept, raising it to get bigger, better shows. Thanks. Getting into the summary, most of which I've already stated, but I'll just go through. It's important that we do recognize that both proposals exceeded our minimums, our requirements of the RFP. We're very happy to have in a lot of ways, a very successful RFP where we got two very good proposals. Again, comparing the guaranteed proposed value, Live Nation $106 million versus Nederlander AEG of $96.2. We also thought that and the panel thought that basically the strategic direction of investing into the capital infrastructure of the building and the long-term capital investment basically mitigated risk of non-performance of the facility. Typically, when our facilities get run down, they get beat up. They don't tend to get as much use. So we thought that was a solid direction to be looking at continued investment into the facility. Nederlander AG's proposed revenue share was much higher on the guaranteed and as well as the minimum of the gross revenue. There's no disputing that. However, when you look at the investment of the capital improvements and you run a net present value of both proposals, Live Nation's guaranteed proposal is higher when you consider the capital improvements as well. Next. As it pertains to the evaluation panel's findings on asset management and concession improvements, again, Live Nation's capital plan maximized current available space for an improved fan experience, supporting the ongoing goals of creating a first-class competitive venue. We just thought that there was, and the panel thought that there was just more investment into the actual facility and restoring it and making it those spaces or reusing some of those spaces for things like the restaurant and others that were a better direction. Live Nation's proposal guaranteed a slightly higher level of spending for preventative maintenance, but in reality, there's really not a whole lot difference between, although in value, I will say, there's not a big difference in the preventative maintenance plan, but we just thought their approach, at least in their response, it was a better direction than Nederlander AEG. Nederlander AEG's proposal included an innovative approach for improving concessions with a new year-round restaurant, which was proposed. And the difference between the two proposals was the Nederlander AEG proposal created a new restaurant, new facility, new building, where Live Nation was proposing to renovate the existing staff offices and making that in the deck area part of a restaurant. So it was just two different approaches. Summary on the event activity. Again, the minimum number of events required in the RFP was 50, and there was a considerable penalty if they did not hit the 50. Live Nation guaranteed 70 events, and Nederlander AEG guaranteed 50 events. Just for a point of information, for the 2014 season, under the operation of the Nederlanders, they had 74 events at the facility. Live Nation's operational plan committed to specific service standards. Again, we just thought that those standards were better, well thought out, and that to get to the competitive venue that we wanted to create. And we also believe that some of the traffic solutions that they proposed, although they were better, and we thought that they were a better direction for the Greek Theater. Although I don't know that there was much difference between them at the end, but that was just some differentiating factors. Summary on the community partnership plan. It's obvious that the Nederlanders have done a very, very good job of working with the surrounding community and trying to mitigate, a lot of the issues that come with running such a large venue in the middle of a neighborhood, and it is not easy. And they were recognized for that, and it was scored as such. They were actually scored higher on that particular item. But there's no disputing that the Nederlanders have done a tremendous job with, working with the community to try to mitigate some of the issues that come with running a venue like this. Traffic and noise being probably the two most significant. Live Nation committed to start a Greek Theater Community Trust, contributing $300,000 annually to support diverse programming and conduct outreach to at-risk youth and underserved communities. Again, that was a request in the RFP for somebody to think outside, and Live Nation, that was their, which we thought was significant that they were thinking in that direction, because bringing those kids and doing those things does take money, and it takes some way of being able to do that. They also committed to starting a cultural arts council consisting of cultural arts and community service leaders across the city. Again, a lot of thought needs to go into that, but it was just the right type of thinking that we recognize as being in the right direction. Down to the last couple of slides. Apologize, trying to get through this quickly. Live Nation proposal commitments, we thought overall had a better supports the objectives set forth in the RFP. That was established by my department. The evaluation panel unanimously scored Live Nation's proposal as the most responsive to Rec and Park's 4 objectives. So there was a 5-0 vote by the evaluation panel to award them the contract for operations and maintenance of the Greek Theater. And lastly, just a couple of bullet points. Nederlanders, the current state of affairs is the Nederlander contract does expire October 31st, 2015. So they have one more, this is the show before, the summer, this coming summer will be the last series of shows before that particular contract expires. Our goal was to execute a new contract under this RFP by the end of April of this year. It's highly unlikely we're going to be able to meet that, only because the process has taken additional time. There's a lot of, of course, there's a lot of things that we could have done to do this earlier, but it is what it is. We're still going to shoot for that, depending on when the outcomes of the committee meetings and city council meetings are, of course. But I wanted to share with that, because the reason why that is so critical is that whoever the operator is, they need in order to be successful, they need a certain amount of time to plan for the upcoming season, to book talent. Both proposers had capital improvements that they were going to try to do. Both of their proposals were banking on those capital improvements to actually increase the attractiveness of coming to the Greek. So that it's really based on their performer numbers. So it was critical that we move the process along regardless of who gets this proposal. Thank you. That concludes my comments.
Thank you. Thank you. Ms. Coe, Ms. Israeli, anything to add? No, at this time? Okay, thank you. So colleagues, here's what we're going to do. We're going to hear from both Live Nation and from Nederlander AEG up to 10 minutes each to present. Then we will follow that with public testimony, both pro and con, in terms of supporting this recommendation. And then we have a number of cards that are general comment as well. So we'll devote an amount of time for that as well. So that at this time, Mr. LeBon, just one moment. What we're going to do next is we're going to go to Live Nation. So if you could begin preparing for your up to 10-minute presentation. And Mr. LeBonge.
What if we have questions for the department right now?
We're going to wait because we're going to reassemble the entire panel after everything is said and done. Thank you. And gentlemen, you may sit wherever you're comfortable. Table, podium.
Yeah,
Either way.
that's fine. Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, council members. My name is Joe Berchtold. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Live Nation. Here in front of you today after a 2-year process. We were warned at the beginning of the process it would be long and challenging. We were told what happened last time. We also were told that the facts would bear out, and this would be a fact-driven RFP process. And in our minds, the facts are clear, as we just walked through, as was found unanimously by a 5-member commission, as was supported by Strategic Advisory Group, your consultants, Mr. Shull and his staff, and the unanimous agreement of the Rec and Parks Commission, all saw that Live Nation in its totality was the best solution for the Greek going forward. And so we come here today asking for your support in moving forward on that. When you look through the different pieces, again, in its totality, each of the pieces, Live Nation was the superior offer. Financially, we offered more money in totality, not cherry picking, but as he said, in all aspects, Live Nation was superior. Programming, Live Nation is the largest concert operator in the world. We promoted 22 of the top 25 concerts in the world last year. We're committed to delivering talent from around the world. We have 40 offices around the world. Our ability to deliver content from Latin America, from Asia, for properly diverse talent for this community is proven. And we're committed that this is our primary venue as a marquee here in Los Angeles. We're based in Los Angeles. We have over 1,200 employees in the city of Los Angeles, 2,000 employees in the county of Los Angeles. We are 100% committed to making this our marquee facility. We're committed to investing, as you saw, we're committed to investing twice as much as what was otherwise proposed, simply because the building needs it. In order to deliver the best fan experience, it needs substantial renovation, it needs more technology, and we're committed to doing all of that. And then finally, we are 100% committed to working with the community and making sure that both for the residents of Los Feliz and the broader Los Angeles community, it's a great experience having Live Nation as the operator of the Greek. We have 50 amphitheaters around the country, many of them in similar situations of dense urban environment. We found ways to work with the community and 100% committed to doing so here. As a resident myself of District 11 in Los Angeles, I'm personally committed, and I'm here to represent that Live Nation as a corporation is fully committed to doing our part to make the Greek a great venue again, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
My name is Matt Presoff. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Live Nation in California. When I was 16 years old, I was given the opportunity to take tickets at an amphitheater in Indiana. And for the past 24 years, I've worked at amphitheaters across the country, the last 12 of which with my family in the red shirts behind me today. The Greek is an iconic venue, an amazing amphitheater, and Live Nation would be proud to be given the opportunity to manage this jewel. Our Southern California team feels the same way, which is why we put so much time and effort into putting together our comprehensive RFP response, highlighting that the Greek will be our flagship amphitheater in North America. On October 9th of last year at the Rec and Park Commission meeting, I committed to the team of dedicated professionals at the Greek Theater today that if Live Nation was granted the opportunity to run this facility, that we would extend the current team every opportunity to join the Live Nation team and move forward with the Greek to make it the best it's ever been. We stood by our word over the past few months, and we've come to legally binding agreements with Local 857 ticket sellers, Local 33 stagehands, Unite Here concession workers, Local 911 Teamsters, Local 47 musicians, and Local 768 wardrobe. I'm also very proud to share that we recently signed a statewide Live Nation project labor agreement with the local trades. We've committed to the best possible Los Angeles-based workforce with which we'll make the Greek the best it's ever been. At the outset of the RFP process on our first walkthrough, our entire team agreed that we had to immediately invest in the physical aspect of the theater at an unprecedented level to make sure that the Greek stayed successful for the next 20 years and moving forward. We selected architects Rios Clemente Hale and John Lisak, who have led the way in designing and restoring many of our city's gems, including the historic restoration of the beautiful building that we're in right now, to the Music Center and Grant Park across the street, to the Hollywood Bowl. Our capital investment plan includes, but is not limited to, refurbishing the Greek Theater's historic roof, making the Greek ADA compliant, installing a new canopy complementing the original architecture, rehabilitating the landscaping and plaza areas, and finally exposing the original Greek columns. One required project in the RFP was to address the deteriorating quality of the seating terraces. Our structural engineer, Miyamoto International, told us that the terraces might not withstand an earthquake and were quickly deteriorating and needed replaced. Is this more expensive than the minor repairs to the existing seats that the second place proposal included? Absolutely, but minor repairs and Band-Aids, as the Greek turns a century old, are no longer enough. Live Nation committed to replacing the terraces with a seating area inspired by ancient Greece that will feel like a natural extension of the beautiful Griffith Park hillside. Live Nation committed to $40 million in capital improvements, with $25 million being available in year one. The other proposal bid less than half that across the entire 20-year term, with over $1 million of their number allocated to equipment that they already own, as well as earmarked for deferred maintenance that they readily admitted to in their bid. Our contractual commitment of $40 million is the right investment to ensure that the Greek finally gets the capital attention it deserves, immediately in the first term, but also in the second term when the Greek celebrates its 100th anniversary. Almost none of the capital improvements that our opponent proposed 20 years ago ever got built. This is because the capital budget that they proposed back then, just like the one in their current proposal, was not realistic for accomplishing what the Greek needs. Moving from our capital commitment to our operational plan, our proposal also scored significantly higher in this category due to our comprehensive plan to improve the artist and customer experience. Starting with concessions, the menus in our proposal demonstrate that we will provide great food at varied price points and quickly improve the subpar concessions that have existed in the venue for years. Concessions will be run by the Patina Group, a proven concessionaire which has transformed the concept of theater dining at the Hollywood Bowl and Disney Hall. Three of the most exciting upgrades to the concessions experience are the creation of Colonnade 29, an indoor-outdoor restaurant, the addition of a grab-and-go station from local favorite Cafe Gratitude, and the addition for the first time ever of star chef Nobu's amazing sushi. Live Nation is also very excited about the great concerts that the renovated Greek and the scoring we received for our unparalleled programming plan. The panel gave us the clear edge in the programming category, in part because we committed to delivering 70 shows a year. And if we fall short of that, there's a $50,000 self-imposed payment to the Park and Rec Commission. Our financial proposal is about realizing maximum potential, not about hitting minimums. Unfortunately, all you've heard from our competitor over the last 3 months is their minimum guaranteed rent number. Maybe that's because their performance of the Greek has consistently been about hitting minimum guarantees and breaking promises to the city of Los Angeles. With our guaranteed 70 shows a year, Live Nation projects approximately $124 million in value to the city, which is $30 million more than the second place bid. Using Nederlander's historic average of 56 shows a year, our competitors' pro forma projections would result in only $92 million to the city over that term. If our competitor wants to debate minimum guarantees and not the actual pro forma projections, our financial proposal is still superior. Live Nation's minimum guarantee of $106 million over 20 years is $10 million better than the competing proposal. Our competitor has sought to make its case in various forums by misrepresenting the numbers. They focus on one line item of the total revenue picture and pretend the capital investment and the guaranteed show count and penalties don't count. Transitioning into our community plan, our plan includes what is being done currently and then adds layers with substantial additional benefits to the citizens of Los Angeles. For example, our plan aims to reduce parking and traffic nightmares by 30% by adding shuttles and eliminating the payment transaction at all public lots. Our acoustic plan will ensure that Live Nation always operates at legal levels and mitigates negative effects of amplified sound. As part of our community plan, we're delighted to provide a minimum of $6 million for a Greek theater trust, guided by contractual commitments with the Department of Rec and Park that will do something that has never been done before: expand the definition of community to all of Los Angeles, especially the underserved areas of our great city. In addition, we will provide 2,000 complimentary tickets annually to children from all corners of the city to introduce music and arts programs to them, while focusing on delivering additional special educational and cultural programming to the Greek. Council members, we prevailed on the merits of our RFP response in a carefully constructed, open, transparent, and extremely rigorous process that the city expertly put together over multiple years. Our 59-point advantage in scoring was not an accident, wasn't a scoring error, and it wasn't a mistake, and should be upheld to keep this and future RFP processes fair and apolitical. We ask that you support the city staff and the unanimous independent evaluation panel and concur with the Commission's unanimous decision. Basic fairness and respect for the integrity of the city's contracting process demand it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bressoff. And now we will hear from Nederlander AEG. Please approach.
Thanks, Tom, for this. Been approved already? Tom.
Yeah, I laughed, but it's gonna come through.
Thank you, council members, for allowing me to speak. My name is Jimmy Nederlander Jr., and I am honored to be here representing my family. For those who don't know our company, the Nederlander organization has been around for over 100 years, and we have operated the Greek and the Pantages Theater in Hollywood for the past 40 years. We treat our patrons like family, and it shows in the overwhelming community support that we have. People wonder how a family-run business can continue to thrive over 100 years. The key is constantly searching out new talent and new partners. For this proposal, we bring together some of the most talented people and most successful companies in Los Angeles. We're very excited about the future of the Greek Theater. With that, I am proud to introduce our partner, Dan Beckerman from AEG.
Thanks, Jimmy. Members of the City Council, my name is Dan Beckerman. I'm the President and CEO of AEG, and we are proud to partner with the Nederlander family on this proposal. Over the years, we've witnessed the tremendous success that the Nederlanders have had and the strong foundation that they've built in the local community. When we were given the opportunity to partner with the Nederlanders, it was an easy decision for us to join forces. AEG and our thousands of LA-based employees are committed to this partnership, and we will dedicate our resources to ensure its success, including our operational expertise, managing over 100 venues throughout the world, our programming experience as one of the world's largest content providers, and our award-winning sustainability programs. Our proposal, submitted by two Los Angeles-based companies, will bring the most guaranteed revenue to the city while committing the resources to ensure the integrity and success of the Greek Theater into the next decade. In short, we have made the most compelling financial offer, and we have the overwhelming support in the community. A key component of our proposal is consistency in the operation of the venue, currently led by three-time Facility Executive of the Year, Rena Wasserman, who it's my honor to introduce.
Thanks, Dan. Good afternoon, gentlemen. I've had the great privilege of being the general manager of the Greek Theater with Nederlander Concerts for the last 10 years. Nederlander has enjoyed a wonderful 39-year partnership with the City of Los Angeles through all the ups and downs of natural disasters and recessions. Under our stewardship, we have built the Greek into the first-class award-winning venue it is today. We are not resting on our laurels. Our partners represent the best of Los Angeles. This is our dream team. Working with preservationist architect Brenda Levin, whose projects include many iconic venues, such as Griffith Observatory, and if I may respectfully correct the record, City Hall as well, where she was the historic preservation architect for this very building, Levin and Associates. We look forward to making the Greek Theater a high-tech venue while retaining the elegance of its past. Changes need to be timeless, not trendy. Working with Brenda is highly regarded landscape architect Mia Lehrer, who developed the master plan for the Baldwin Hills Park, as well as the Los Angeles River restoration. Sharon Romano with the LA Beautification Team rounds out this group with a visionary sustainability program for the future of the venue. Bill Chate's Sprout group of restaurants, which include Republique, Bestia, and Petty Cash Taqueria, to name just a few, will be bringing LA's best chefs to the Greek. The stars will not only be on the stage, they will also be in the kitchens, offering local, healthy food for all tastes and budgets. While we will continue to focus on job training for underserved communities, as we have for many years, we will also make the arts accessible to everyone. We will also bring new community arts-based programming to the Front Plaza with free Monday night events with our partnership with Grand Performances. This is the future of LA, showing the world that heritage, sustainability, and progress are not competing concepts. As you can see, we're very excited for the future of the Greek. But what really makes it special is our relationship with the community. The trust we share with the neighborhood, both the immediate and broader community, is incredibly rare in our industry, and their support has truly been overwhelming. We are so honored to have been the stewards of this beloved gem, this beloved landmark, and we ask for your support to join us and the community in realizing our vision for its future. Now I'd like to introduce you to Rick Mueller, President of AEG Live North America.
Thank you, Rena, and thank you for your time, Councilman. When considering the future of the Greek Theater, the fundamental question is value versus risk. To quote the RFP, the highest standards, the highest levels of revenue generation coupled with mitigation of risk are critical. So let's look at three key factors in the RFP and how they pertain to risk and value. First is financial, second, operations, and third, community. Regarding financial, the choice before you is clear. Nederlander AEG offers $17.5 million more in guaranteed minimum rent during the entire term of this agreement, as well as a higher percentage of rent on the upside. We offer 10%, Live Nation only offers 8%. This is the only direct funding that the city receives from the Greek Theater contract and provides almost $1 million more per year in discretionary funding available for all of Los Angeles. The Nederlander AEG proposal is essentially a partnership, splitting the operating profits from the Greek Theater 50-50 with the city of Los Angeles. Live Nation's proposal, however, retains over 60% of the operating profits. So I ask you, should the profit from the Greek Theater go to fund LA's parks and recreation programs throughout the city, or should it go to Live Nation shareholders? Now consider the risk mitigation called for in the RFP. We are not adding conditions such as questionably funded and controlled community funds, rent abatement clauses that were ignored in the RFP, or self-imposed penalties. We guaranteed our money up front. Our guaranteed rent is far more important than any minimum show count. We simply guarantee 30% more money to the city of Los Angeles with no strings attached. Turning to capital improvements, both proposals make similar stage and seating improvements. Our plan immediately renovates both the north and south concession areas in the first year. And we also install Wi-Fi, creating the next generation of concessions and technology opportunities that can be enjoyed 365 days a year in Griffith Park. The alternative does not include these same investments and spends less in preventative maintenance, increasing that the Greek Theater will fall into disrepair during the term of this agreement. The second key factor is operations. And again, the choice is clear here. Nederlander AEG have invested billions of dollars, that's billions with a B, with a vision to revitalize downtown Los Angeles and Hollywood. Our venues have the highest operational standards in Los Angeles. And I'd like to finally note here, we have always been union, not just when it's convenient. Union from the beginning, will always be union in the future. Nederlander's Greek Theater operation has won the coveted Polestar Industry Award for the best small outdoor amphitheater 14 times, and 10 out of the 10 last year. That doesn't sound like a venue that's being run poorly to me. So why would you risk starting from scratch when you can build on well-documented success from 2 LA-based operators with a proven track record? And finally, the third key factor in the RFP. To quote the most affected neighborhood group, the Los Feliz Improvement Association, we support the Nederlander AEG proposal because we have direct experience with the care, proper staffing, and community cooperation exercised by Nederlander. Joining the LFIA, the Los Feliz Neighborhood Council recently conducted its own independent review of both proposals and voted unanimously to strongly support the Nederlander AEG proposal. Several other neighborhood councils have weighed in over the past few months, and not one has voted to support Live Nation. Over 30,000 citizens have signed an online petition in support of our bid, and additionally, there are 4,500 supporter cards with us here today that are signed by affected Angelenos. Community trust is something that is earned over time. It is not bought. The outpouring of support from the citizens in this room today and those who took time to petition, make calls, attend hearings should send a strong message to the city of Los Angeles that this community is at risk. With the vision for the Greek presented here today by Rena, Dan, Jimmy, and myself, you have the best of both worlds, a bold financial commitment to bring the Greek into the future while preserving a trusted relationship with the community. The alternative provides the city with less value and more risk, and for that reason, we ask for your vote and your support today. Next, I'd like to introduce our attorney, Tim McCosker, who will explain the path forward.
Chairman and members.
Yeah, Tim, you've got 36 seconds.
Thank you very much. Chairman and members, I just want to follow up on what the city attorney had said about your opportunity here today to either accept the recommendation or reject the recommendation and withhold your concurrence. We completely agree that you have the legal authority to reject the recommendation and you withhold your concurrence, but we would say in addition that you can also provide a roadmap or guidance to the commission as to what you would like to see as the ultimate legislative action when it comes back to you in some time. And part of that guidance would be your assessment, which is consistent with the charter authority over RFPs, that it is in the best interests and to the advantage of the city to immediately move to the selection of Nederlander, the AEG proposal. So we would ask you to reject, withhold your concurrence, and provide guidance to the commission below that you want to move to AEG, the Nederlander proposal, and immediately enter into those contract negotiations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, colleagues, just to keep this going, at this point we're going to hear from public comment. We have up to 20 minutes for each side, and we will also hear general public comments, and we will start.
Can I ask one technical question, or is that
Technical question to whom?
to the Nederlander group?
I would prefer that you hold. Let's just stay consistent before we open it up to questions.
5-second question?
I would rather you not, Mr. Labange.
All right.
Mr. Chair, just for the
Yes.
record, on the public comments, there are some people who are here, and there are some that are in public works, so it might take them a while to get here. If they don't get here, you can hold the card and then call them later.
I will do just that. Thank you. All right, so the first name we have is Matt Preshoff. These are for the proposal. Matt Preshoff from Live Nation. Next, we will have Joe Bertheld, which, Mr. Bertheld, I think you already spoke. So you presented.
Both Matt and I have already spoken.
We have plenty of cards. So we have John Lisak, and then Julie Smith Clemente. Victor de la Cruz. I see Victor. Victor, you might be the only one here so far, so if you'd like to approach the podium. After Victor, Ken Wong, and then Elaine Nesbitt. Any of the names that I've mentioned, if you could queue up, we'll just keep this going before we start our 20-minute countdown of comments, and that way we'll just keep it going and no time will be lost. Thank you. Mr. De La Cruz.
Good afternoon.
I'm sorry. Good point, Tom. 1 minute. Everyone gets 1 minute.
Good
Thank
afternoon. Victor De La Cruz, Manat Phelps on behalf of Live Nation. 20 years ago, when this contract was last put out for RFP, Nederlander lost and another company was selected to run the Greek. The winning company bid $11 million more than Nederlander, and the LA Times said it was an obvious choice. Yet Nederlander cried foul, said the panel was biased, and went on to wage a campaign of misinformation, turning it all into a political circus. Sound familiar? Ultimately, Nederlander prevailed. The LA Times called it a Greek tragedy. Within 1 year of signing its new contract, Nederlander asked for a waiver of its minimum guarantee, and the next year, it backed out of its capital improvements, the same improvements in their latest proposal. How quickly we forget. If politics trumps basic fairness and the integrity of the city's contracting process today, no company will ever bid on this contract again. Why bother? Please send a clear message today that we're better than we were 20 years ago, and will put the Greek theater and the people of the city of Los Angeles first. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. De La Cruz. Sir, please state your name, then I'll go through the card.
Good afternoon. My name is John Lesak.
Okay.
I'm a partner and historic preservation architect with Page & Turnbull. Our firm's offices are located within District 14. As a firm, Page & Turnbull has over 40 years of historic preservation experience, and personally, I've dedicated my career to the preservation and rehabilitation of historic buildings. I served as a consultant on the restoration of the exterior terracotta here at this building, and I am currently working on Hearst Castle and the Los Angeles Federal Courthouse across the street. Our firm was retained by Live Nation to assist with preparation of the RFP response, specifically focusing on historic preservation issues. This project represents a tremendous opportunity to bring back the classical theater in the park by providing for current and future use. Our team is committed to a solution that is consistent with historic preservation standards and guidelines. We've initiated a dialogue with both the Office of Historic Resources and LA Conservancy, and we intend to work collaboratively to achieve those goals. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Julie Smith Clementi, and I'm an architect and partner at Rios Clementi Hale Studios. Our offices are located in District 4. For the last 30 years, we have been working to make Los Angeles a better place to learn, to work, and to play. Our firm is very proud of our work creating transformative visions for LA's public spaces, including Grand Park, which, like the Greek Theater, had spent decades without significant care or investment. Sustainability and integrating green spaces into the environment are hallmarks of our work. We have renovated significant historic structures in the city, such as the Mark Taper Forum. Besides the theater, we love music and have worked for the Los Angeles Philharmonic at the Hollywood Bowl for over 10 years. We have worked very earnestly to modernize the Bowl while adding to the patron experience at every level. We believe the work we are proposing for the Greek Theater, with Live Nation and our great team, will bring this tired, neglected monument back to its full glory, so that it can be appreciated by all Griffith Park patrons and music lovers. We will modernize the venue in a way that highlights the historic structure while allowing for modern technology. We care deeply about the city of Los Angeles and the people here.
Thank you. Is this Mr. Wong? Please.
Good afternoon. My name is Ken Wong, and I work in the 14th District. I was brought onto the Live Nation team as a structural consultant. I've done several major renovation projects within the city, including the Griffith Observatory, LAX theme building, and was also structural engineer for the renovation of the Hollywood Bowl. I'm here to address the question of the Greek Theater seating terraces. The terraces certainly have seen better days. The slabs are cracked and corrosion has penetrated into the metal deck, through the concrete slabs, and into the framing below. In some places, the decking is simply gone because of years of corrosion. The seismic system is outmoded and is in need of retrofitting. Yes, they can all be repaired and kept going a few more years, but repairs will be costly and they will remain vulnerable to continuing maintenance issues. A world-class venue deserves better. With the Live Nation proposal, we have the opportunity to build new terraces that will be safer, stronger, more functional, and can be enjoyed by generations of Angelenos to come. I support the Commission and the Live Nation proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. If you could hold one moment, Ms. Nesbitt. After Elaine Nesbitt, is that who? Yes. We'll have Lisa Specht, followed by David Stock of Patina, followed by Cindy Starrett.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Elaine Nesbitt. I'm a 27-year resident of Los Feliz, and I'm working with the Live Nation team as a project manager. I've worked on many projects, thank you, throughout Los Angeles, and for the past 15 years, I've helped to oversee over $70 million in improvements at the Hollywood Bowl. But we're here today to talk about the Greek and the need for a lot of work. There are signs of lack of maintenance throughout the entire facility. At the front of the theater, the historic facade is cluttered with temporary canopies and outdated signs. These all hide the historic Greek theater. At the raised terrace seating inside the theater, the steel has rusted in so many places, it really does not make sense to repair it. Maintenance could have prevented this damage, but now the decks need to be torn down. Another example of poor maintenance is all the dead trees surrounding the seats. This is a fire hazard, and for anybody who lived through the 2007 Griffith Park fire, we know how dangerous this can be. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, council members. Lisa Specht, Manette Phelps. In May of last year, a Nederlander sent a letter to Rec and Parks commenting on the draft RFP. It had just a few technical comments, no complaints about the evaluation process. But now that they've lost, they're trying to make this award about petitions, politics, and deceptive arguments. Forget that Live Nation delivers tens of millions more in guaranteed revenues. That is not Nederlander's biggest problem. Their biggest problem is that they lost by 59 points. Live Nation got 91% of a possible 500 points. Nederlander just 79%. That's a huge margin. Live Nation's proposal was found to be so vastly superior, and this was unanimous, that there is just no legal path to victory from Nederlander. Please uphold the integrity of this process, support the hometown company, the true hometown company. We really are based here and not in Denver, with thousands of employees living in Los Angeles. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm David Stork with Patina Restaurant Group. As you might know, Patina Restaurant Group is a proud partner with Live Nation at the Greek and the Theatre on this one. And we believe that cultural landmarks and institutions are actually our forte and a strong focus for our company. For over 20 years, we've provided culinary services to entertainment venues such as the Hollywood Bowl, Walt Disney Concert Hall, the Los Angeles Music Center across the street, Segerstrom Center for the Arts, San Francisco War Memorial Lincoln Center, and the Metropolitan Opera House in New York. We are excited to welcome the Greek Theatre to our performance within the family. The overall culinary approach to the Greek will focus on a similar plan, similar to the successful operation at the Hollywood Bowl, as we have been running it for the last 15 years. But most importantly, our staff, well trained to provide impeccable friendly service, will enhance the overall concert experience at the Greek. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Cindy Starrett from Latham & Watkins on behalf of Live Nation. Please honor your staff's exhaustive efforts to conduct a fair RFP process for this city asset, not a private asset, not private property, this is city property, by concurring in the commission's action. The current contract obtained in 2001 was intended to be for 10 years, but Nederlander's already gotten 4 years of extensions at the rent that was agreed upon over a decade ago to make time for this 3-year RFP process. The reason we had a 3-year process is that this council, after audits that were critical of Park and Rec's concession process, including the Greek contract in particular, this council directed the staff to go out and hire outside consultants and do a fair process. They did. The only option legally is to follow under the charter and the admin code the outcome of the RFP, and we ask you to help the staff do that today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cindy. Our next group of speakers will be Luis D'Alvarado, followed by Linda Bloom, Emily Simonich, and Rondi Lieberman. Any of those, please approach. Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Anyway, my name is Louis Alvarado, and I'm looking at it from a different perspective than most people do. I'm looking at it from the angle that we are not doing enough when you get involved in the community involvement, because you say community involvement and you drop off of a cliff. What does that mean? Well, to me, it means that community should get involved, but that should also be part of the process of achieving some kind of the satisfaction to the people and to the city of Los Angeles. Right now, what I see is that general citizens right here, members of the Los Feliz homeowners groups, are not getting what they deserve. They have been here for years and years, and all we see is them get together on a committee and they bypass on the decision making. All I'm asking you is to listen, and let's get the citizens involved in the decision making of the problems that we have. And here they are representing the Greek Theater, where I have been for over 30 years in Griffith Park. Let's get them involved. Let's give them some value when they have something to say. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you, Mr.
very
Alvarado.
much.
Thank you. Now, your card was in the 4 proposal stack, but I clearly think that that's the wrong stack for you. All right, we have next we have Linda Bloom. Mhm.
Hi, my name is Randy Lieberman, and I'm a second-generation Angelino living in CD4. I've been going to the Greek Theater since I was a little girl, and so have my children. As an active participant in my neighborhood watch and member of the Sherman Oaks Homeowners Association, I'm aware of the need for overwatch. I attend the monthly meetings, and it's always concerning when new developers or operators gain control over our most cherished spaces. I understand the trepidation that comes with that, but I always stand by what I believe will best serve the community and the city that we love. With that, I'm in support of Live Nation's bid to operate the Greek because I truly believe it is a better bid for the city. The Nederlander commitment of just over $17 million pales in comparison to the $40 million that Live Nation has pledged for capital expenditures, which the Greek sorely needs. The retrofitting alone that is needed is necessary for the safety of not only the public, but for the theater itself, which is iconic. Community isn't bound by streets alone, and the proposed Greek Theater Community Trust that Live Nation plans to implement would help bring the arts of the Greek. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next groupings, Emily Simonich, Linda Bloom, Alan Toy, and Rafael Cordona.
Hello, council members. My name is Emily Simonich. I'm an employee of Live Nation. I'm a native Angelino, born in Echo Park, raised in Atwater Village, and a graduate of John Marshall High School. I understand the importance of the Greek Theater and the community. Live Nation will invest to renovate the Greek Theater, which is so desperately needed, as they did at the Hollywood Palladium. As a female Hispanic concert promoter for 25 years in the city of Los Angeles, Live Nation has supported my efforts in promoting multicultural talent and emerging artists. Now you can make a change, because Los Angeles has changed, and for the future of the Greek Theater and the improvements. This venue belongs to your constituents. They should be invited and welcomed. Please support your Department of Recreation and Parks and the recommendation of Live Nation. Thank you.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Alan Toy. I am the director of the West Side Center for Independent Living in Council District 11. We serve many people in Los Angeles City and County, people who have disabilities of all kinds. I'm also coincidentally a Recreation and Parks Commissioner in my city of Santa Monica, so I know of which I speak about these issues. I would like to respectfully change the record to say that my community has never felt like a part of the Greek family. If the Greeks have been so well run by the Nederlanders, why is the place falling down around itself? Why is it in such bad repair? And why is there no adequate parking? Is there no adequate paths of travel, no adequate seating, integrated seating, no employment opportunities, and no real artists from my community represented at the Greek for the past, well, under this stewardship anyway, for 13 years. I would like to see that you give this over to an organization that cares about my community, and that's Live Nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Toy. We also have Chris Roberts, Linda Bloom, again, if you're around, and Sergeant Dino Caldera. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, committee. My name is Rafael Cardona, and I am the Chief Operating Officer at Emmanuel Presbyterian Church here in Los Angeles, located in the heart of Koreatown. We are a historical landmark, and we are a very multicultural church. Our mission, at the very core of our mission, we try to build justice-oriented communities that will hopefully go out there and change the world one day at a time. Our mission also includes providing food for the hungry and providing spiritual guidance to those who need it through our yoga classes. Over the course of the last year, I have been privileged to work with Live Nation. They have been hosting a series of concerts at our facilities, and I couldn't be more proud of the relationship that we have developed together. Live Nation is a group of people that are very professional, they're very caring, and very generous, and it is their generosity that allows us to be able to give back to the community through the services that we provide. So I'm simply here to support Live Nation and to ask you to give them the utmost opportunity to bid on their bid, to bid on their opportunity to get the contract, I should say.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Cardona.
you.
Thank you. The additional names I have, Sergeant Dino Caldera, Rick Merrill, Bob Ronks. Is there Linda Bloom, Chris Roberts, Sergeant Dino Caldera?
Hello, my name is Rick Merrill, and I'm the proposed general manager under the Live Nation plan. I'm a native Angelino and grew up going to concerts at the Greek Theater. I live in District 3 and have a 30-year history in the venue management business and was general manager at the Gibson Amphitheater for 21 years. Nederlander has been bombarding local residents with a barrage of propaganda about its family-owned and community-oriented management of the Greek, while making it look like the Greek is about to close. AEG already operates 2 other mid-sized venues right here in Los Angeles, which is not being mentioned. These venues, the Nokia Theater and the Shrine Auditorium, directly compete with the Greek for shows and revenue. Live Nation, on the other hand, does not manage any similar sized venues in Los Angeles since the closing of Gibson Amphitheater, which hosted over 70 events a year. It's time to give the Greek the attention and care that it deserves. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. You kind of stole my thunder a little bit. Honorable council members, my name is Bob Rue. I'm the co-president of North American Music for Live Nation. I think it's important that when you look at the proposals and you think about what you've heard today, you do really take into consideration guaranteed show count, versus the show count provided by Nederlander AEG. Show count is what drives those financial performance. And, we have guaranteed 70 shows across the whole 20 years versus 50 from AEG Nederlander. That 20 shows represents a significant difference, and especially when you look at the historical average of mid-50s presented by Nederlander, you have to consider whether or not the 70 is even achievable in their, or 75 is even achievable in their performa. This year it was mentioned earlier, I think, by the Parks District that they presented around 75 shows. It's important to note that Live Nation presented over 10 of those on their behalf this year. So I think when you look at our guarantee and you look at that as part of the reality of what's going to happen over 20 years, the number of shows that we do annually around the world, the strength of this company, that's really what's going to drive your performance and the financial success. Thank you.
Thank you. And before Chris Roberts speaks, this is the last call for Linda Bloom. I'm going to change out your card for a different speaker. Last call. And last call for Sergeant Dino Caldera. Last call for Sergeant Dino Caldera.
Mr. Chair, and also there's only 2 minutes remaining.
Right. So I'll switch it out with two other, yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Roberts.
Great, thank you. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee,
You may start again.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is Chris Robert. My firm is the Robert Group. We are a public affairs firm located in Atwater Village. I, too, am a proud resident of the 4th District. I'm a member of the Los Feliz Improvement District. But I come here today as a member of the Live Nation team representing community outreach. We've worked on some of the biggest projects in the city, from many metro projects to river revitalization, and our commitment to an inclusive and a transparent community outreach program that includes all neighbors from San Pedro to Sun Valley is tantamount to what we bring here today. I just want to mention a creative approach to outreach, just beyond the basics, just two things that Live Nation did recently. Last Friday, after many years of work with many months of coordination with the Cherimoya Foundation, we were able to identify Cherimoya Elementary as one of our partner schools. We hung a banner up on Franklin. If you go there, please take a look at it. But a shout out to Justin Walker and the folks at Cherimoya Foundation, because the schools are important to Live Nation and to our city. And just yesterday morning, the Rec and Park sent out, they had their first inaugural run in the park, and I'm so proud of the Live Nation team that got up early yesterday morning, was part of the run, and see our parks as an opportunity to enjoy and embrace, and not the public place where we should leave placards and inundate our community with just unsightly stuff. So our commitment is to doing things, getting them done in a transparent way. And I'm so proud to be a part of the Live Nation team and look forward to having the opportunity to lead the outreach on this effort.
Thank you, Ms. Roberts. So what I'm going to do is, since we had one card get in that was actually against the proposal, I'm going to hear two more cards. And sir, you are?
I'm Peter Gutierrez, so I'm going to pinch hit for one
Okay,
of the
yeah,
missing
actually,
speakers.
you're next, Peter. And then after Peter, the last speaker will be Thomas Schultz. Thomas Schultz, if you're there. Yes, Mr. Gutierrez.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I'm Peter Gutierrez from Latham and Watkins, appearing on behalf of Live Nation. You've heard more than once that integrity is important to this process. So I just want to point out to the committee that during this RFP process, Nederlander has improperly used the Greek Theater, a public asset, to display messages lobbying the mayor and city council in direct violation of their concession agreement. We pointed out these violations, along with photos, to Rec and Parks and the city attorney. In response, Rec and Parks sent Nederlander a letter objecting to the improper displays and telling them to cease. I'm submitting these two letters to your committee for its record and ask that you concur in the recommendation of the commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Thomas Schultz in the house? Thomas Schultz. James Patton will be the last speaker if James Patton. And then without James Patton or Thomas Schultz, the next card is Craig Fry.
They've actually asked me to close. Can I do that? I'm Andrea Sweeney.
Did you fill out a card?
I did, yes.
Yes, I have it right here, so you'll be the last speaker.
Great, thank you. I'd like to be the last person at bat here. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Andrea Sweeney, and I oversee all of the union relationships and contracts for Live Nation. I'd like to re-emphasize Mr. Prehoff's comments in regards to our commitment to the employees at the venue. Today, I'm pleased to advise to the committee that, as noted in each of the letters that Live Nation sent to you, Live Nation has made the following commitments. First, Live Nation has signed a statewide project labor agreement with the Building Trade Councils, which includes all of the work at the Greek Theater. I'm also pleased to advise that Live Nation has agreed to legally assume all of the Greek union agreements as they stand with IATSE Local 33, the stagehands, IATSE Local 857, the ticket sellers union, and AFM Local 47, the musicians. We have also signed a new agreement with IATSE Local 768, the wardrobe union, who has not had a standing agreement in that venue. Lastly, Live Nation has signed a card check neutrality agreement with Teamsters Local 911 and Unite Here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And that concludes the for proposal public comment. Now we have against the proposal public comment. We have Lori Goldman, Adam Burke, Mia Lehrer, Len Wallstrom, I hope I said that right, and Jeff Zaranem.
Good afternoon, committee. I'm Lori Goldman, a native Angelino, a Hollywood stakeholder for more than 50 years, executive director of Friends of the Hollywood Central Park, a Hollywood nonprofit. In accordance with full disclosure, RAP is the lead agency for our park's EIR, and David Green is on our board of directors. This presents a dilemma for me, which can only be resolved by doing the right thing, no matter the consequences. I therefore ask that this committee unanimously reject the award of the Greek Theater contract to Live Nation on the grounds that Live Nation has demonstrated through its deeds and actions in Hollywood that they cannot be trusted to be a reliable community partner and that their corporate profits come before their community interests. I've given each of you 2 agreements that I negotiated with Live Nation in excess of $73,000 for a community event for a nonprofit. They were willing to bring it down to $50,000. So you need only to look at their, whoops.
Just wrap up.
Okay, well, I'm asking you, please, do not give Live Nation this contract for the good of the community.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, committee. My name is Adam Burke, and I'm the project director for Nederlander AEG. I'm going to correct the record on a couple of things. There's been a parade of lawyers standing up here explaining how that Nederlander has not fulfilled its commitments. Thankfully, these things get written down. The prior contract is a matter of public record. There was a commitment in the prior contract to $6 million and $6,052,000 of capital improvements. All of those improvements were made, and I quote the contract, "The amendment to the scope was done to maximise the customer experience and improve revenues, and it was considered a superior plan." I'll submit that contract for the record. Second, do not get confused by this minimum show mathematics accounting. All that matters is guaranteed revenue. It's all the City of Los Angeles will see. Finally, if this is a circus, if 30% more revenue and this community support is a circus, I think that's a misrepresentation. What this is about is fiscal responsibility and listening to your constituents. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. And Jeff, before you begin, I don't see Mia Lehrer and Lon Wallstrom, so if you're, oh, there's Mia, and then Bill Chait will be in this group too. Yes, thank you.
Go ahead.
Ready.
I am Jeff Zaranum, a native of Hollywood and a president and CEO of Hollywood Hotel, which is located down the street from the Greek Theater on Vermont Avenue. I'm also a board member and treasurer of the East Hollywood Neighborhood Council and chair its Budget and Finance Committee as well as its Business Committee. The East Hollywood Neighborhood Council hosted presentations by both groups, and the contrast was striking. Nederlander AG answered our questions directly. Live Nation obviously didn't prepare, and they were extremely elusive. First, Live Nation said that they had won the bid, and then they backtracked. Then they said they were offering the city more revenue. When we broke the numbers down, much of what Live Nation described wasn't revenue at all. Second, when we got into the issue of capital expenses, anyone who has done a construction project like me knows you can buy or budget a $6 hammer, a $60 hammer, or a $600 hammer. So our question was, what capital improvements did Live Nation promise that Nederlander wasn't doing? The fact was, Nederlander is doing all the improvements, including repairing the terraces. Third, the capper was when we discussed the number of shows and ticket prices, Live Nation's prices were higher and they guaranteed more shows. Yet they guaranteed less revenue to the city. Why? Because more of the money is going to the bottom line,
Okay,
which is
Jeff,
great for the shareholders and not so great for the city.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Mia Lehrer. I am a resident of Los Feliz, and it's an honor to be here in this amazing chamber with all of you. I would describe landscaping as a link between several elements of the proposal, including sustainability, community, and the overall relationship to the park. In it out to the past, our design includes cedars lining the historic facade, and in preparation for the future, we have also focused on water capture and reforestation. Another highlight of the design is a new community stage in the plaza, which will be home to free concerts featuring top local talent. We're very honored to be a part of the Nederlander AEG bid, working alongside Brenda Levin, Bill Chait, Sharon Romano, and others. It's an amazing group, and I think the reason we've all come together on this project is we understand that what the Greek means to the city of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bill Chait. I suppose I'm the respected restaurateur of the group, but that really doesn't speak to what is really going on. My involvement really is as a partner with Nederlander and frankly with AEG, and more importantly with the City of Los Angeles. The group of our company has been built around partnerships. We partner with over 15 different chefs. For the last 5 years, our restaurants have been rated #1 or #2 in Los Angeles. And the existing partners of the company include Eileen Getty, Eli Broad, Tom Gilmore. There's a reason why people like this have joined with our group, and it involves the collaboration that looks towards the goals of everybody involved in our economics. One element which you can look at is the restaurant that we're talking about, the 365-day restaurant that's up at the Greek. That restaurant alone will generate over $1 million of additional rent to the city over the life of the contract. That's one of the things that we looked at when AEG and Alex Hodges from Nederlander approached us. They said, what do you need? What do you need to be able to make this a world-class food facility? And what will be best for the city? We think that's what's been in this proposal all the way through.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I am repeating Lon Wallstrom, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I think it's Lon. Is that you, sir? There you go. Now, after Mr. Wallstrom, we have William Raleigh, Russ Campbell, Chuck Whitaker. Sir.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Lon Wallstrom, a local resident, a member of the LFIA, and a concerned citizen. Clearly, Nederlander has earned the support of the community surrounding the Greek. We are here not being paid, but because we support them and we know they've done a great job for so many years. My request today is very simple. If you ignore the public support for Nederlander and award to Live Nation, please provide us with Ambien to all the residents surrounding the Greek for the next 20 years of summer nights. Thank you.
Thank you. I've got William Raleigh, Russ Campbell, Chuck Whitaker. Are you Karen?
I'm speaking
Corey?
instead of Russ Campbell.
And-
Kathy Corey.
Oh, yeah, you're in here as well, so okay.
Okay, I'm Kathy Corey, and I represent the community, hoping to trust that you know that Live Nation is $2.1 billion in debt. I'd like to submit for the record several documents that speak to Live Nation's track record for operation and public safety. First, this letter from Mark Weinman, the president of Homeowners Association in Concord, California. He says Live Nation has, and I quote, little to no communication or connection with the community, extremely poor traffic management, and poor facility maintenance. And this article about the dwindling number of shows at the Walnut Creek Amphitheater in Raleigh, North Carolina. And this article about the cease and desist order at Oakland based on noise complaints and unauthorized events. Also an article citing multiple delays in opening the Ritz, another Live Nation venue. And another about the arrest at the Eminem concert at the Rose Bowl. The list goes on. I would also like to note that the Gibson was recently replaced by a theme park attraction. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I'm here to rise in opposition to Live Nation.
And your name, sir?
William Raleigh.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You've heard before you here today testimony that about the speedy garnering of new union contracts with, among other entities, Local 33. I'm a member of Local 33, a 44-year member of that local. Unfortunately, I've had, and I say unfortunately, the misfortune of having to deal with Live Nation for a number of those years, from the time that it was Avalon through its transition to Clear Channel, and to what you see before you here today, representing finally that it is in fact recognizing one of its fundamental assets, as the city, I suggest, would represent that asset, and that is labor. I guess the expression is to believe or not to believe. I choose not to believe because of all of the years that I've spent as a unionist and my attempts to work with Live Nation and against Live Nation. I heartily recommend you send this back to the board for a further consideration, and please this time really look at the labor component. Thank you so much.
Okay, the names I have: Chuck Whitaker, Rebecca Leon, Brenda Levin, and Al Polhonky. Any and all of these individuals I just mentioned, please step up. Yes, sir.
My name is Chuck Whitaker, and I'm a practicing structural engineer with a firm of JLA Structural Engineers in Los Angeles. I have been doing this for over 40 years, 30 of which have been in the city of Los Angeles. Our firm has extensive experience in the renovation and evaluation of existing structures, and I'm here to talk to you about the terrace seating. We have carefully assessed the terrace seating with AEG Nederlander and have determined that the terrace seating does not need to be replaced because of maintenance issues or because of seismic issues. The terrace seating was built in 1985, at which time the building code requirements were not that much more stringent for these type of structures than the current code. We have determined there's not a life safety issue with the existing seating. However, we do admit there's some maintenance that needs to be required. There could have been better maintenance taken care of with these terrace seating before, but we do not believe they need to be replaced. The Greek Theater requirements.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Brenda Levin. I'm a Los Angeles architect and a Los Feliz resident for over 30 years. My firm is responsible for the renovations of City Hall, Griffith Observatory, Dodger Stadium, the Wiltern Theater, and currently the John Anson Ford Amphitheater. I would say that the approach that guided the Nederlander AEG renovation plan is one of a light touch on the site to allow for the setting and the context to guide the plan, much as what you heard from Chuck about the terraces. The historic theater is revealed, the stage is raised but enclosed to manage noise levels in the neighborhood. Improved accessibilities for both patron and performer. You heard from Bill Chait about the wonderful concessions and Mia Lair about the plazas and the park revitalization. I think our team has created a new landmark for LA while preserving the best of the original Greek, something that will stand the test of time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Rebecca Leon. I run AEG Live's Latin division as well as manage Latin artist Juanes and J Balvin. I just wanted to say how much I'm looking forward to working with Nederlander to bring more Latin shows to the Greek. Some info about our team. We are the largest producer of Latin content in Southern California. We did over 100 shows around the U.S. last year, including artists such as Enrique Iglesias, Pitbull, Marc Anthony, Juan Gabriel. We also produce the festival Supersonico at the Shrine Amphitheater, as well as Univision's Euphoria Festival at Exposition Park, with over 20 acts each on each of those shows. Without a doubt, the Greek is one of the most iconic and special venues in the country, and I can tell you I would be truly honored to be able to bring shows there. And I can also tell you that without a doubt, the best team to do that is Nederlander and AEG. And that's what we want to do. We want to bring premium Latin content to the Greek. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And my former senior lead officer, Al Polhonky.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Al Polhonky. I am a retired police officer. Good afternoon to you. I'm very familiar with the Nederlander operation at the Greek Theater, having been assigned to a division that covered that area for 27 years. I can confirm that the public safety practices up there and the track record of the Nederlander group at the Greek Theater is outstanding. They've done a good job communicating with the public and trying to solve issues that have come up over the years. They do provide sufficient security and other staffing to give the guests up there to the Greek the best possible experience that they can have. Considering the difficult logistics of a venue in Griffith Park, the sensitivity that they have to always keep in mind, I think they've done a great job over the years, and I support them.
Thank you, Al. Next, we have Olympic decathlon champion, Mr. Rafer Johnson.
Mr. Chairman and board members, I want to thank you for this opportunity to have this time in support of Nylander and AGE. I've lived in this city and been a part of some very historic events. And in those early meetings, when these events are being talked about and looked for in terms of support, AG is always there, has always been there for all of them. And it continues this year in July, the International Olympic Games, Special Olympics for intellectually disabled citizens. It's going to be here for 9 days, beginning July 25th. 7,000 athletes, 170 countries, and AEG is there as well, on one level. On the other level, I've sat on several boards, still do in fact, and when these individual boards, local Special Olympics and other organizations, look for support, AGE is there as well. And so if you take this...
and Mr. Johnson, your buzzer did go off. If you could please wrap up, sir.
You take the AG's, a very talented organization, and you add to it Nylander, and I understand that they have been chosen the past 10 years as the #1 small amphitheater facility in this country. I think that you have a winning combination. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to read the remaining names that gets us to 20. On this side, we've got Ferris Webby, Barbara Ferris, Stacy Hill, Carolyn Ramsey, and Jay Marciano. Those are my remaining cards that get us to 20. Sir.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and Council. I'd like to speak to you on behalf of the AG Nederlander bid for the Greek Theater.
And your name, sir?
My name is Richard Twist, and I am the Chief of Police for the City of Indio, California.
Okay, I don't have your card in front of me. Did I call you, Mr. Twist?
No, sir.
I did? Did I call your name earlier, sir?
No, I have submitted a card.
Okay, we're only going by the first 20 that I've received, sir.
Okay.
So, yeah.
He's going to speak for Jay Marciano.
Yes, sir.
He probably drove the first.
I know. So here's what we can do. We can all, I mean, we're keeping to a strict 2020. If you speak, that means someone else
He'll speak for Jay Marciano.
Okay. Oh, thank you. Okay, that clarifies it. We can start the clock again. Let's get to 1 minute, please. There you go. Please, my apologies. Begin.
Thank you, sir. Over the past 3 years, I've worked closely with the management of Golden Voice, AEG, and the planning and operation of both the Coachella Music and Arts Festival and Stagecoach Country Music Festivals. This series of 3-day festivals hosts in excess of 750,000 patrons in the city of Indio each April, essentially creating a city within a city with the hosts of operational community challenges which accompany such large events. I would like to impress upon you how successful we have been through the collaboration and cooperation with Golden Voice AEG to prepare and execute a proactive plan driven by a commitment to community safety. Together, we work year-round planning strategies to eliminate any potential safety risks at the festival, and as a result, have extremely low number of audience-related incidents each year. The AEG team is absolutely committed to minimizing the festival's impacts on the local community. They participate in community meetings to afford residents the opportunity to express their concerns and to then develop strategies to address and minimize impacts. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, council members, good afternoon. I'm a business owner and have been an active community member in Hollywood for over 3 decades. It was not that long ago that these streets were not safe. In the 80s, me and several friends organized citizen patrols to root out gangs. My first point is that throughout my time in Hollywood, Nederlander has been there, supporting community programs and investing in Hollywood. On a more personal note, I have attended several shows at the Greek over the years. I was there in the 90s with my kids when the Gypsy Kings played in the pouring rain, and no one left. And I was there this year when Armenian legend Charles Aznavour took the stage to celebrate his 90th birthday. This is what the Greek is about, memories that last a lifetime, that shaped both our love of music and our love for this city. We have the Nederlander to thank you. You cannot separate the Nederlander from the Greek theater. They are one and the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Webby. All right, so let's pause for just a second. I have a lot of people lined up, but I've only got 3 more speakers. The 3 speakers are Barbara Ferris, Stacy Hill, and Carolyn Ramsey. That's it as far as the against the proposal. Now, those others that are lined up may be here for general comments, but we are being very strict to 20 for the proposal, 20 against the proposal. We absolutely have to stick to this fairness, this approach to fairness in this hearing. So Barbara Ferris, Stacy Hill, and Carolyn Ramsey complete our 20. Thank you.
Good afternoon, City Council members. My name is Stacy Hill Williams, and I'm here representing the Brotherhood Crusade. The Brotherhood Crusade was founded in 1968 and is dedicated to providing services, programs, and improve the quality of life for children and families living in South Los Angeles. I'm here to speak in strong support of the Nederlander AEG Live proposal. For over 15 years, AEG has demonstrated an exemplary commitment to the community. They have raised and contributed $90 million to nonprofit organizations seeking to provide resources to underserved communities. The Nederlander Group has also demonstrated a strong commitment to the community, as evidenced by the tremendous outpour of support here today. Together, these organizations have laid out a vision in their community and programs that set new standards and a benchmark for mentorship and job training programs that directly benefit those in need, youth and young adults in low-income communities. Young people that participate in our youth development programs have directly benefited from job shadowing and mentoring with AEG executives. A light goes on, and now professions and goals are no longer dreams, but tangible realities because time and care that AEG executives freely gave to these young men and women.
Thank you, Ms. Hill. And next we have Barbara Harris and then Carolyn Ramsey.
Thank you. Here, the first thing I need to do is what is it, 45, over 4,500 support cards here that should be considered part of the record. Also, the Strategic Advisory Group, I'm Barbara Ferris. I'm a 30-year resident of Los Feliz and have been following this for a while. It's come to my attention that the Strategic Advisory Group, who ran the RFP process, is now claiming on their website that they were engaged by the Department of Recreation and Parks essentially to find a new operator and promoter for the Greek. I think that that's kind of alarming to hear, and if that's a misstatement, it should be corrected. And community trust, to quote Rick, is not something that you can buy. You have to earn it. And Nederlander has earned it 20 times over. Thank you. Please reject this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Carolyn Ramsey. I live at 251 South Norton Avenue. As you can see from this packed council chambers, as well as the next chambers over, which is packed as well, that this issue would benefit from more exploration. I think there are people who feel the community wants more information, and as a member of this community, I support them in that. So I wholeheartedly ask you to send it back to Recreation and Parks Commission and reject the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. And let me state for the record again that we have many, many, many more comments than time allows, so I apologize for that. But as you heard during the presentation, there were 3 public hearings that lasted for a total of 10 hours, one of them being epic, all day long, where hundreds and hundreds of people were heard from. So there's been lots of discussion and lots of expression on both sides of this issue. Now with that, I'm going to allow for 10 minutes of general comment, 10 minutes, and we'll start with Jay Handel, followed by Joey Scolari, I think that's it, followed by Brian Barajas, followed by Bonnie Winnings.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Jay Handel. I'm speaking as the co-chair of the Neighborhood Council Budget Advocates, part of the group that you gentlemen and our lady council member always complain never weigh in. Well, the Budget Advocates weighed in, and we weighed in very heavily. We did an analysis of the numbers. They don't match. We didn't get into the situation we're in this city because we've made good financial decisions in the past. Leaving money, hard money on the table is a mistake. We're asking you as budget advocates to ask the CAO and the CLA to do a complete fiscal analysis of the two programs and tell us which is the program that's going to come out best for the city so that we can put that money back into our parks and get our parks back up to speed the way they should be. We have issues about rent abatement that I haven't heard yet from one of the parties. We have issues where I heard about the historic difference. We want to build it different than it looks from a historical point of view. As chair of downtown Culver City redevelopment 15 years ago, we mandated that we go and take pictures and actually build it to look historic, not to be different.
Thank you, Jim.
We ask you to remand it back. Thank you.
Joey Scolari.
Hi, my name is Joey Scolari. I'm actually an employee of Live Nation. I'm an executive of Live Nation, but I really want to talk about the process. And I know a lot of people on the AEG side, actually former Live Nation employees, and obviously know a lot of people on the Live Nation side. And as this process has gone, I've watched it with great interest because, people try and paint each other with different brushes and try to make someone a villain and try to make someone a hero. And I think the process that has been gone through has been very diligent, and I understand that both sides have their opinions, but if you don't respect the process, I think there's an inherent problem with that. And I also truly believe that both sides have great qualities, and whether you're publicly traded or privately held, at the end of the day, you're in business to make money. So to sit around and say somebody isn't in business to make money isn't true, but ultimately it's about the community, and I would implore you to make the best decision for the city of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, on this list of speakers, we have Brian Barajas, and I see Brian Barajas, you're next. And then we have Bonnie Winnings, Mary Button, Michael Cuneo. Sir, have I called your name?
You did call my name earlier. My name is James Patton.
I called it under general comment?
No, you did not. You called it to speak for Live Nation.
Okay, this is general public comment at this point.
May I be included in general public?
Are you here to speak in support of the proposal?
Yes.
Okay, I've closed those periods of for and against, sir.
Thank you.
My apologies, sure. Brian Barajas, then we have Bonnie Winnings, followed by Mary Button, followed by Michael Cuneo.
Wow, the Greek theater. Hey, wasn't that the original intention was to, promote the classics, not rock music? It's interesting how the culture starts to disintegrate once you introduce that kind of music. I know the intention originally by Griffin was a Greek temple. But yet you have people introducing live rock music, which totally disintegrates the human mind. So what was the human intention of the Greek theater? It wasn't about money. And that's fine. Anyways, so let us remember it is not about the money. It's about what you use the facility for. Rock music? I mean, you might as well turn the whole damn theater into a sex place.
Thank you, sir. Bonnie Winnings, followed by Mary Button, followed by Michael Cuneo. General comments, not for and not against.
Hi, my name is Bonnie Winings. I'm a board member of Friends of the Observatory, but here today speaking as a private citizen. I believe in being a good neighbor. I think it's up to all of us and creates wonderful relationships to be good neighbors. And I think it's worth noting that the observatory, the Greek, the Autry, and the zoo all operate in a very complicated ecosystem, balancing the interests of the general public, the local residents, and the park itself. It's a tricky thing to run a theater in one of the largest urban parks in the country, but I think we've seen some good neighborliness in the works over the past many years with sharing information, resources, and solutions, and it's made the park function better as a whole. I think the Greek and its management has mastered the art of being a good neighbor, and I think it's worth noting that that's the sort of thing we want in Griffith Park.
Thank you. All right. Mary Button, Michael Cuneo, Amanda Irvine, Edward Chris Fernandez.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Mary Button. I am a neighbor and an avid fan of the Greek. I'm also a huge fan of Nederlander AEG. I prize the venue of the Greek Theater and the special care and concern Nederlander has shown for this treasured place. They've gone overboard with their outreach to the community. They've built a relationship with their neighbors, which continues to strengthen and grow each year. Their bid guarantees the city over $17 million for improvements, but I want to stress the trust, the relationship, and their integrity. You cannot put a dollar value on this. The Greek has earned numerous awards and praise for the venue, often referred to as the best outdoor theater in California, if not the country. This didn't just happen. It happened because of the good work and dedication of Nederlander AEG. Thank you.
And let me restate for the record, we are hearing comment cards that are marked general comments. General comments. Michael Cuneo.
Hi, my name is Michael Cuneo.
My apologies.
I'm a Los Feliz resident. My wife and I moved there in 1998, and we now have a 14-year-old daughter, and we go to several concerts at the Greek Theater because we can walk to it. So we love the venue, and we're very involved in our neighborhood, and my neighbors and myself are very upset because the first we even heard of any of this going on was in October of last year. So I feel like you did not, I've heard so much words about community this, community that. I feel like we were totally left out. And it bothers me to no end because we live there. Folks are going to come into the neighborhood and see the concerts. We've been very happy how it's been so far. It's up to you guys to make your decisions, but I feel like we were totally left out, and we're a little upset that we were considered 10% important. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Cuneo. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Amanda Irvine, and I'm here on behalf of the South Park Business Improvement District. We do not take formal positions on issues like this, but I wanted to let you know that we are an organization that represents 32 square blocks, including the venues managed by AEG, LA Live, Staples Center, and the LA Conservation Center. LA Convention Center. And these constituents, as well as AEG, are very deeply committed to our community here in South Park. We work very closely with them on keeping the area clean and safe and focusing on prosperity. And we'd like to let you know how good they have been to work with and that we feel they would provide the same level of community support, cleanliness, safetyness, and prosperity to the area around the Greek Theater. Thank you.
Thank you. The remaining speakers for general comments are Edward Chris Fernandez, Michael B. Finn, and Sarah Todd.
Good afternoon. My name is Edward Chris Fernandez, and I am a senior at John Marshall High School. My high school, middle school, and elementary school have been participating in a Greek Theater annual hosted event called Bach, Rock, and Shakespeare since 2004. I have performed in Shakespearean monologue contests and in a symphony orchestra on the world-famous Greek Theater stage for 8 years straight. Because of this, I am entering college to receive a Bachelor of the Arts in Theater and to become a theater teacher in the Los Angeles Unified School District to give back to the community. Nederlander Concerts has provided John Marshall High School the opportunity to showcase young artist talents. Please vote to continue the management of Greek Theater under Nederlander Concerts. Thank you very much.
Thank you. are Michael Finn or Sarah Todd, either one in the House. Michael Finn or Sarah Todd. Okay, Mr. Finn. Sarah Todd, this is your last call, Sarah Todd, and I will have to choose another card if Sarah Todd does not appear. Thank you. Mr. Finn, please.
My name's Michael Finn. I live in the Silver Lake. For the last 21 years, I've had the pleasure of working at John Marshall High School. For 12 of those years, I, along with my colleagues in the Music and Drama Department at Marshall, have produced a student student performance venture that's hosted by the Greek Theater. Edward's been a participant in that, who just spoke. Bach, Rock, and Shakespeare involves not just Marshall High students, but students from the feeder elementary schools as well as King Middle School. Some years as many as 200 students are on stage over the course of the 3-hour event. We get about 1,000 people participating or attending every year. In thanks for the Nederlander family and the Greek Theater hosting this event, they take a loss of about $20,000 a year. Over the last 12 years, that's $250,000 investment in the community. There's RFPs and the fuzzy math of RFPs, and there's the very firm 12-year commitment that Nederlanders made to the John Marshall High community. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, Ms. Sarah Todd. Ms. Sarah Todd, going once. Ileana Battle. Ileana Battle. Is Ileana Battle in the House? I understand she could be in the overflow room. Ileana Battle. All right. If Ileana Battle shows, we'll still let her speak. Myrna Batet Ellis. Myrna Batet Ellis. All right, I'm just trying to get to 10 speakers here. Mark Wartell. Is Mark Wartell here? I had someone over there approaching. Nope. Mark Wartell. Mr. Ibarra Albert. Ibarra Albert. All right. Janet Tinkle. Janet. Either Tinkley or Tinkle. Janet. Well, we're almost through the cards. And then we have Tommaso Grady. Tommaso Grady, general comments. And then the last card I have is Chuck Whitaker, general comments. Chuck Whitaker. I'm sorry? Okay, wait a second. What are you saying? Okay, all right. Oh, did you mark general comments? I do not have your card in the stack of general comments. My apologies. Your name, sir?
Mr. Albert Ibarra.
Okay, all right, and you will be the final speaker under general comments.
Good afternoon, my council here. Albert Ibarra, and I am an employee of the Greek Theater, and I've also worked for the Nederlanders and Live Nation. I've worked for the Greek Theater for the last 3 years doing these diverse rock and roll shows and classical music where, yes, classical music also, where I believe that the Nederlander AEG proposal is the best one to go with because their commitment to the union there, Local 33,
Mr. Chair.
for 10 years.
Yes, sir. One moment, sir.
Just kindly remind the speaker we're on general public
Yeah,
comment.
this is general.
Yes, okay. My daughter told me one day while attending a show there that she was very proud of me for working at the Greek Theater. I was able to hold my head up high with dignity, to know that I have a job that could afford a living.
Thank you, Mr. Ibarra.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that concludes public comment. At this time, I would like for Rec and Parks to please step back up to the bench, and we will begin comments and questions. And I want to thank everyone for their patience, for taking time out today to be at this hearing. All right, thank you. Thank you. At this time, what I would like to do is turn the floor over to our colleague, Tom Labange, to begin the line of questioning or comments that you may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. First, if anybody wants to stand up and stretch, do so right now. Very good. It's been a long seated time. Stretch it out. Look up to the sky. Relax. It's been a long afternoon. Thank you, everybody, to come. John Ferraro taught me that. Thank you very much. All right, be seated. Thank you. I have one question. The first question that I wanted to know, I just had to ask the Nederlander group, do I call them to the... No? Well, what are you saying that for? You're just a staff member. Come on now. Here's the question I really want to know. They talked about food at the Greek Theater. I absolutely want to know, will Pink's hot dogs remain at the Greek Theater and be available to the public?
Is this a question that Rec and Parks can answer?
Yeah, they answered the question. Thank you very much.
All right.
The next thing, Mr. Chairman, we had a fire in 2007, and I believe your predecessor, with many of the contracts under the Department of Recreation and Parks, put the priority of the park first, and this got lagged and bounced to now, which is 2015. And you may or may not, I know I talked to your predecessor, and many of those under contract in concessions in Griffith Park were given extensions because our focus was to renaturalize the park that was damaged as opposed to handling it. Do you recall that, any of you members there at the table?
Yeah, Mike Shaw, General Manager. I believe all concessions in the park were given some relief on that.
So that we know that. Also, both groups are very good groups. You know, it's very exciting. It's sorry that there is not more venues. I'm proud of Universal Studios, and but they've transformed the old Universal Studios Theater. And what was in Orange County there, Joe? You're younger than I. You remember? You used to get down there. Irvine Center. A lot of this has changed. The other greatest place on earth is, and no offense to the Greek Theater, but I love the Hollywood Bowl. But right nose behind it is the Greek Theater. And I just think these are important venues that are in these communities, so we have to do the right thing. And what I've noticed is someone who has been intimately involved in the park, and every day I hike in the park and go up in the morning. One of the most telling tales that I've seen is someone, not a city employee, not a hardworking member of the Griffith Park Commonwealth Maintenance Yard team, but someone from the existing contractor, Nederlander, who's sometimes all the way down to Vermont and Los Feliz Boulevard getting the trash. Because occasionally, I'm sure not students from Marshall High litter out the windows, but some of those Hollywood High, no, I won't say that about Hollywood High, but there's people who litter. And lo and behold, the vendor realizes that, and they have that simple thing in turning around the community has been accepted by the community. Why, and I'm looking over at Live Nation here, is you found someone who's really aggressively listening and been involved through this long period of time in being a community theater that serves the public, but at the same time is committed to the community. I just feel strongly that, and I did not go to any hearings. I had staff at the hearings there, so I didn't hear your commission's direct comment there. But I feel strongly in the existing group that has this contract, Mr. Scholl, and hold your applause because of the work. Even some years ago, they led the renovation. There used to be a little road, a little cutout in front of the Greek Theater, and that was closed off to make a plaza. And I believe they made many ADA improvements at that location. But they did historic preservation for that, which is key. I was glad to hear about the engineer because I'm always worried about safety. And the engineer, those wings that were built are within the last few decades, and they have gone under the guise of the Building and Safety Department, and your department as well, to be safe. I think it's always very important to see who's been there and how their relationship is to community. That's what people care about in that community because the impact of the park is great. And I always say that I love people who hike up there, and it's wonderful, and the dynamic that is there. But also, I do enjoy that people experience the open-air theater that has had success by their own professional group to name them outstanding open-air venue of the country, which is so important. Because there's very few intimate places. When I come down in the morning, Mr. Chair, I'll see these big buses, and I'll talk to see where these guys, and it's mostly bus drivers, who where they've come from, on the road, and they all love coming to the Greek. And it's special to me when some people come back. When it was Belafonte who was always there, and God bless Mr. Belafonte, he always would come to the Greek. Ringo Starr always comes to the Greek. He loves the Greek. There's certain things that are there. You had Neil Diamond there last year. I wasn't a Neil Diamond guy, but he came and people enjoy that. There's something about the Greek is magical, and the magic also is related to the Nederlander group. And also, I'm proud of AEG for what they've done in transforming the central part of the city and the work there. Again, Live Nation is a very good organization, but I feel strongly that the existing group has merit to keep the contract. Now, the city attorney has advised us or will advise us on that. I did want to make a couple of things. Brenda Levin, and Rios is a great group too, but Brenda Levin is a saint in a lot of ways, starting with Chapman Park Market and the Wiltern, and great confidence that I have there. The observatory that she has done, it's really kind of special to have that. I wanted to mention that as we go forward on that. And also, I wanted to mention that I worked there in 1969, Mr. City Attorney, for the record. Were you born in 1969?
Summer of 1969?
Were you born in 69?
Isn't that when you worked at the Greek?
Oh, yeah, that's when I worked at the Greek.
Crosby, Stills, and Nash.
Oh, yeah, very good.
August 26th.
Yeah. And Young was at the light at Gardner and Sunset, and he ran into Stephen Stills and said, hey, we're going up to the Greek to play, come with us. And that's how they got Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. They bumped into each other on Sunset. But anyway, that's a little rock and roll
Down by
history.
the river.
By the river. All that is real important to the history that we look at this here. So there's some tough questions. I want the CAO to look at this too as they make it. Also, I respect the community that I represent. And if you live in the 4th District, please stand up right now. So there's a lot of people from the 4th District in here. Thank you. Good job. Thank you very much. You could all be seated there. So this is good. That's their second stretch, Mr. Chair. So I've looked at it real good. I'm familiar with it real good, and I can't. And I'm being termed out. I read in the paper this morning. I got 14 mugshots in there, and there's one person who could laugh. But there's got 14 great candidates who are competing for this job. But if I have to leave this job, I'd want to tell the general manager, I'd like to see this rejected, and then also you have to reconsider it. And I wasn't involved in your commission dealings at all. And now let it go freely through there. But I strongly believe there's something what you know when you work in a community and you live in a community and you're involved, and that's what we express here. That's why you came to the commission. Thank you so much. My part has been spread, and I think the questions have been answered. And it's good to see Al Pahonki here, who was a great member of the Northeast Division in retirement.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mr. Labange. Colleagues, before I open up for other questions and comments, I just have a few comments of my own, and we'll circle back. First of all, I want to commend Recreation and Parks. I want to commend Agnes, Vicky, and Mike for engaging in a process that I feel has and had complete integrity, and you're to be commended for that, and for really holding to the high standards that you feel and I feel, we all feel, that this process deserves. And I am not going to fault that in the least. Quite the opposite. I want to commend you. Having said that, with what our colleague Mr. Labange just mentioned, what are the consequences if this committee does not concur with the recommendation from the Rec and Parks Commission? Where does that leave us? And we can also have AP, our city attorney, weigh in, Terry Sal, our COO, or Andrea Galvin, our CLA, jump in if you feel that you need to. And conversely, if we concur and approve, take us to the steps of what's next and what's after that. If we do and we don't.
So my understanding is, Councilmember, either scenario would still result in, I believe it still going on to the full council. Is that, that's my understanding, correct?
That's correct.
Yes, so if the, I mean, again, it depends what happens following that, but if the full city council follows whatever direction this committee recommends, if it was rejected, then we would go back, I'd have to go back to our Board of Commissioners and probably would begin with an informational report of, what happened, some of the questions that were raised, and, let them know, what those can, the options are as well. Of course, if the council accepts if the committee was to approve it and it would go forward, then we would not go back to our commission, other than maybe just a small informational report, but we would begin negotiations on the contract with Live Nation. And then, of course, that would have to come back to the board and then back to the city council for approval.
And then what are the implications for the 2015 or the 2016 season, essentially, since the contract expires in August?
Well, if it's, again...
I'm sorry, October. October, you'd mentioned, not August.
Correct. Yeah, expires in, the current contract expires October of this year. Under the scenario of rejection, we would have to, again, go back to our commission, but we would have to determine, what our options are as far as going forward. I have no desire for the Greek theater to be dark, even for, any period of time, and that would be a failure on my part to allow that to happen. So we'd have to look at all of our options at that point. But we are at, we're at risk at this point of just because of the amount of time these things take, and it's all with good reason, and and all those things. I'm not pointing the finger at anybody. It's just it's just these things take time. But we need to get ready for the 2016 season to make it successful, regardless of what option we go with. And we need every bit of time to make sure that we're able to do that. And certainly, again, depending on who the operator is, those capital improvements are a big part of. So having time to actually even start some of them and have them done in time for a season is also something that we need to consider.
Thank you. I may very well have more questions or comments, but I would like to open up to our colleagues.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Buscaino.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you all for joining us. This is an incredible show of support on both sides, and to know that there's been a huge community outreach process that I really appreciate the department and the commission for embracing and moving forward. I want to talk a little bit more than trash, Mr. Labange. Which I know is equally important to the capital improvement part of this proposal. Obviously, Live Nation promises more capital improvements and a higher number of shows. Can you tell us exactly why capital improvements are given so much weight that was given so much weight in the evaluation process?
The capital improvements were given the same, it was, again, in a financial performance was weighted 30%. So the capital improvements made up 10 of those 30%. So they were equally weighted with the financial performance. And that was a direction that I chose, and we chose as a department, our commission chose and approved when we moved forward on the RFP, only because I mean, it's my opinion that, and it was our commission's opinion, that in continually investing into our facilities is something that we quite often don't do very well here in the city of Los Angeles because of financial issues and others.
So if we reject this, obviously there'll be more of a delay in the improving the capital improvements, but also more of creating delay will add more expenses. Is that my understanding?
As far as more expenses, I'm not sure. I know what you.
As far as the booking of the shows as we move forward.
Well, I think the idea, and I'll use the example of renovating the stage roof project. I mean, that in itself is something that both proposers thought was needed, only because it opens up the avenue for other artists who might have, or might be able to gather a greater ticket price, or guaranteed sellouts because they would then perform there. There's my understanding there's a number of artists that can't perform here just simply because their show won't allow it. So in that respect, yes, Councilmember, there would be an impact to that.
And I understand, obviously, the more shows, the more revenue. That's my understanding, right? And contrary to what a public speaker says, that doesn't throw it out the door. It doesn't matter if you have more shows, more revenue. Obviously, if you look at the side-by-sides, there's more shows being guaranteed by Live Nation.
Under the guarantee, yes, Live Nation proposed more shows, but under their both of the proposers' pro forma data, they were fully expecting to get a minimum of 70. I believe it was 75 shows. That what Live Nation, or excuse me, Nederlander was basing, in AEG was basing their proposal on. So obviously, if you're, the more shows you have, the more gross revenue you make, the greater likelihood of that percentage of that gross coming to the department.
And on the community benefit portion, AEG has been an incredible community partner for the city of Los Angeles. I just had a question how they weren't scored highly on that community partnership. Obviously, according to the comparisons, Live Nation offered a minimum of $300,000 annually to the community trust, $6 million total within 20 years. And there was no contractual financial commitment on the AEG Nederlander, which I'm pretty stumped on that part. Can you explain that?
Yeah, no question AAG has been not only a good partner to the city of Los Angeles, but a good partner to our department.
Sure.
However, it was simply scored based on the proposal. I mean, if there was, the fact that others, they've done other thing in other facilities is no question. I mean, with great gratitude this department has for that. But it was based, the RFP response, it was great and graded on what they submitted. If it wasn't, and it wasn't submitted, we didn't ask them to submit what we've done citywide. We've asked them to submit what we're going to do for the Greek Theater. So it was just great. We graded what was received. Okay. And Live Nation has submitted this cultural group that was funded for $300,000 a year, $6 million over the life. And AEG Nederlander, not to say that they might not do that, I'm not saying that at all, but it wasn't in the proposal, so we couldn't take that into account. It would not have been a fair way of doing it.
And last question, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Sure.
Did the evaluation committee know who the respondents were as they were grading during the RFP?
Yes, they did. They actually interviewed both of them in person.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Buscaino. Mr. Bond, okay, and then Mr. Price. Yeah, I see it. I'm looking. I'm glancing, gentlemen. I know Mr. Price has something to say.
Yeah, I do. There was, on the pro forma, the projected revenue over 20 years, Live Nation is based on a gross of 8%, Nederlander, AEG, based on 10% gross. Those were their numbers that they proposed.
Yes, I mean, that's based on their numbers. But the 8 and the 10 they had to include, the RFP required that they include a guaranteed minimum plus a percentage or some percentage of gross, and it would be the greater, whatever they would, if it was the greater of the two would be paid to the department in the end. But so Live Nation proposed 8% of the gross, and Nederlander proposed 10%.
This has been a very, very good discussion. I really appreciate the job, first of all, the staff has done in figuring this out, to sort of getting community input. I think that the two responses certainly have been credible. However, reasonable minds do differ. And I certainly am, I'm not persuaded at this point that Live Nation should be the choice. I was persuaded by the supportive community that the Nederlander AG had, both from neighbors around and others in the area. I do know AEG, they've been a good partner, certainly here in the 9th, but also in the city. They've worked closely with the surrounding communities, I think, to be responsive. And I think they certainly are known for sticking to their commitments, and so I think they're a good partner. And finally, I certainly support the councilman in this. He's certainly familiar with the community and with the issues, and I respect his judgment on this, and am guided by it. And so I would move, when it's appropriate, to reject this proposal and send it back to the committee also.
No, before we get there, thank you, Mr. Price. Thank you. Mr. Cedillo, I can't see you. There's a screen blocking our view of each other. You're good. Okay, sir. Mr. LeBons, did you want to add another comment?
Also, no, we got a letter from Assemblyman Richard Bloom, who represents the area, stating on that this should be postponed, the direction to advocate, as the neighborhood council budget did, and direct the CAO, etc. This is his, from Richard Bloom, a local representative. I want to state the longest neighborhood association in the city of Los Angeles, the Los Feliz Improvement Association. In 1915, they planted those deodar pines that are on Los Feliz Boulevard from Ferndale to Riverside. They had a voice, and they stated that, which is real important. Every neighborhood council, the budget advocates on that. I wanted to talk more than trash, Mr. Busca. It's not all about money, it's about community. Right. And the challenge that we have, we have fine people. The late, great Gil Lindsay said, I have friends on this side, I have friends on that side, I want to make my friends happy. But I'm not going to make people happy because I believe strongly in community. And also from the Park Service, in my experience with the Park Service, there are long-time relationships you have that have been a benefit. And it's been tough in the same period, not just the fire, but in the swing down when we had the economic challenges to the great. We didn't have staff to do everything. This got here because it got here because we were not in the ability. We took care of the park first, which is number one, in its restoration. And then as new leadership came on, Mr. Scholl, I thank you very, very much. Your hard, diligent work to work. A new commission that had 4 of the 5 members eligible to vote on this. So it has been something of a challenge for everybody. We're here. And sound mitigation is so important. I remember with Shell Jensen. Shell Jensen was a great assistant general manager that you worked with, Vicky. We used to go up on Glendower because Patricia Ridgewood, I don't know if she lives there anymore, but the noise came banging in. They do sound tests all the time. They work directly with the community, which is so key on that. Again, it is a park that has a theater in it. So parking is not what you're going to see at a venue like the Ports of Call. They park on grass. They park on the lawns that people picnic on. And then they clean them up every morning, which I think is a big value to the people. And if the coyotes don't get to the food first, the guys who clean them up do. So I do want to state it again, it's also not all about money, it's about a relationship. And this relationship has been strong, and my voice has been heard, and I thank this opportunity that I have. And I would second Mr. Price's motion.
Thank you, Mr. LeBonge. Thank you. Mr. Buscaino.
I do respect Mr. LeBonge's comments and leadership here. He was, at the same time, I'm kind of stumped. He was one of the first electeds who told me when I first arrived, always respect the staff's recommendation. And this issue clearly comes down to fairness, it comes down to process and what is best for the entire city of Los Angeles. And the Greek Theater is one of the most valuable assets. It's a jewel in the city's crown, and it just needs a little polishing. And Recreation and Parks put in place an open and transparent and competitive process overseen by one of the best general managers in the city, and that's you, Mike Scholl. An independent outside panel then reviewed the proposals and the merits alone, and one proposal surfaced as a clear winner. The independent volunteer Board of Recreation and Parks commissioners then reviewed the panel's analysis and selected Live Nation as the best deal for the city. If we don't uphold this process and fail to support the recommendations of the board, we are confirming the idea that LA is business unfriendly. According to the staff report, Live Nation won this competition by a wide margin. There are no flat footballs here. Both, as much as I love Nederlander and AEG, they've been champions for us in the city. They've both been great partners for the city for decades. But we need to do what's fair and what's right and support the proposal that's best interest for Los Angeles. I urge my colleagues to concur with the recommendation of the Board of Recreation and Parks and select Live Nation as the highest ranked proposer. And if we're not going to respect the process, why not just flip a coin? I'm confident that the Live Nation proposal is the best deal for the city, but just as there's not any doubt and there are no lingering questions about what proposal is truly best for LA, I'd like to actually take this that was proposed by Jay Handel on behalf of the budget advocates and request the CAO to provide a side-by-side analysis of the two proposals as requested by the Neighborhood Council budget advocates, as requested by my dear friend in the state legislature, Mr. Bloom, and hold this in committee until we get that report back and move forward and before we send it to council to see for sure these two respondents see these two proposals side by side. And let's be honest, we need to do a better job in listening to our budget advocates. They are champions for us in directing how we run our city finances. So I respect Jay Handel's, the co-chair, and the budget advocates, and see if we can get that side-by-side analysis before we go to council.
Thank you. I understand that we have a few proposals on the floor, and AP, if you could address, Mr. Price recommended something, and Mr. Buscaino has just recommended something. If you could clarify.
Certainly. So I think the clerk and I were just trying to clarify as well. Mr. Price, I believe, made a motion to reject the proposal. It sounds to me, and Mr. Buscaino, you can clarify that you were perhaps
I'll make a motion, yes,
moving
to
to amend?
continue this.
Okay.
To continue this, request the CAO to provide the side-by-side analysis here in committee.
Okay. So we have two motions on. Is there a second to that? Or any of the motions, actually?
I seconded Mr. Price's motion.
Okay. So we'll do that motion, and then we can see if Mr. Buscaino's motion carries any weight with the council members. That would be
All right. So we'll vote on the first motion that has been seconded by Mr. Labange. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Could you please restate what that is?
I'm speaking here now for the clerk. The motion, I believe, before this committee right now, seconded by Mr. Labange and made by Mr. Price, is a motion to reject the Board of Commissioners' selection of Live Nation as the bidder, as the highest-ranked bidder for receipt of the Greek Theater's management and concession agreement.
Then it goes back to committee.
All right. And
Commission, if the council votes.
now, well, we already talked about if it is rejected, it still goes to City Council. It goes to City Council that there's no concurrence.
Correct. But then we have Mr. Buscaino's motion about keeping it in committee.
And that hasn't had a second
I don't have a
yet.
second.
And we have to do the first motion first.
Correct.
All right. So should we call the question?
Yes. For a vote. Do you want it?
So we need to take each member vote for the first motion. Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Labange?
Yes.
Mr. O'Farrell?
Yes.
You're voting on
Price's
his
Yes, I am.
motion to reject. Mr. Buscaino?
No.
Mr. Cedillo?
Yes.
Now, on the other matter, is there a second for Mr. Buscaino's motion? Okay, there is a second. And that is to hold it in committee for an evaluation by the CAO.
I think the CEO could do that before it gets to council. You schedule it in a week or two. I don't know what they've been working on all this time, so.
All right, so we're discussing the item, all right? Any other thoughts on that?
Is the CEO's representative here?
Yeah, we have Terry Sauer here, I understand.
Terry?
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Mike Shaw, gentlemen. I would just ask if we could have some, request some deadline to make sure that if that's the will of the committee, that there's a date certain, because we, regardless of the decision, we have a lot of work to do.
Understood.
There's a lot of revenue at risk for our department, and we cannot afford any lost revenue.
And there is not a placeholder at this time, but I understand from Council President Wesson that it can be on an immediate upcoming agenda. Ms. Sauer.
Terry Sauer with the CAO's office. We would be happy to prepare any report as requested by the committee. However, given the complexity of both proposals, certainly if it's scheduled in council this week, we would not have a report ready. I think we have been working with the department and have looked at it. But again, given the level of scrutiny that has been given to the proposal and the level of complexity of the detail, and also the strategic advisors group, it would take at least 2 to 3 weeks.
And Terry, if I may, now, as I understand this, as a contract begins the negotiations, once a contract is approved, it would be accompanied by a CAO report anyway.
That typically, yes. If the committee or the council were to approve this, approve award of the contract, and the department would go back and begin negotiations. Once the department had finalized that contract document and forwarded it to the board, typically it's forwarded to the mayor and council, and the CAO reviews it as a consequence of Executive Directive 3, and our report would be forwarded to council at that time, but it would be an analysis of the contract itself.
Mr. Chair, may I suggest 10 working days? Okay, that's 5 days and 5 days. That's 2 weeks, Terry.
Yeah,
Because
we need,
before you know it, you said 3 weeks.
Mr. Labange, we
Okay.
need at least 3 weeks. This is not given the complexity of the report, given the complexity and the questions of the committee, we do need time to analyze both.
We're talking apples to apples here,
You're
according to the
talking
budget
to apple
advocates,
to
right?
apples, yes.
Okay, so that's 15 working days.
Give them the 3 weeks, Tom.
It's a committee. It's a committee. This is a democracy. Madam Clerk, where are we in 3 weeks? And do we hear it here? Go right to council.
It goes to council.
Yeah. What's the date? 3 weeks from now? No, I think we should have them 19th of February or that week. I got a calendar in my desk over there. I could get it, or I could look at your clerk's.
16th is a Monday, is a holiday, the 23rd.
Yeah, but I would just suggest.
Okay, let me
just ask a question. Mr.
I'm the chair, and I'm going to speak.
There you go.
And what I want to say is that I think we need to have a greater sense of urgency here. I would rather see our non-concurrence go to the city council because of the deadline and the considerations and the risks that Mike just mentioned. I don't see that we need to drag this on further. And once a contract is eventually let, it will come with a CAO's report. Actually, let me back up. It's not like a contract will be let. A contract will be negotiated. It will then come back to this committee for approval. At that time, it will also come with a CAO report on the merits of the award. So I would recommend that we we move our non-concurrence to the full body as soon as we possibly can. That's my recommendation. Mr. Labange. Or we can vote on it. You seconded it, and we can vote on it to give Mr. Buscaino a fair shake.
Well, again, it's just being responsive to the budget advocates. Oftentimes around here, we lend a deaf ear to. If they're asking for an apples-to-apples comparison, this is a huge.
Is it any huge of what's going on in San
This is
Pedro?
big.
I
This
just
is
think
big.
you could do a report in 15
No, but my Watts
working
residents.
days.
Okay, one at a time,
My Watts
gentlemen.
residents would be more than happy to go to see a show at Greek Theater.
They can go anytime they want. And I'll
Let's,
be
I'll
happy
tell you
to-
what, okay, as chair, we're going to take, his motion was announced and it was seconded. So, Madam Clerk, I would like it to be voted on.
Okay, so this is for Mr. Buscaino's motion. Mr. Price?
Aye. Aye.
And let's be clear, this is to hold it in committee.
To hold it in
and call
committee.
for the CAO report, and it comes back to committee. All right. So aye, all right?
Okay, I do not, I want you to come when you come to the whole thing together, so I'm saying no. I want you to be prepared when you come back together. All these people are waiting, so I say no. And then, but when, a friendly
Okay,
amendment,
let's-
when?
No, we're voting, we're voting.
I understand that.
You can't do a friendly amendment in the middle of a
Okay.
vote.
All right,
So,
I say no.
Okay, Mr. O'Farrell?
no.
Mr. Buscaino?
Yes.
Mr. Cedillo?
So announce that.
So there are 3 noes and 2 yes.
All right, so the non-concurrence moves to the full body, and we have it on good advice that it will be heard very, very soon, if not this week. All right, thank you. Thank you. If there are no general non-agendized items, public comment cards, and I see that there are none, then this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.